ihr narische Zionisten, mit eier narischen Seichel, ihr mögt doch gehen zu dem Arbeiter und lernen bei ihm Seichel. Ihr mögt doch gehen zu dem Arbeiter und lernen bei ihm Seichel. Ihr wollt uns führen kann Jerusalem, wir sollen dort Goldaien, wir wollen besser sein in Russland, wir wollen sich befreien, wir wollen besser sein in Russland, wir wollen sich befreien. Oh, you foolish little Zionists, with your utopian mentality, you'd better go down to the factory and learn the workers' reality. You'd better go down to the factory and learn the workers' reality. You want to take us to Jerusalem so we can die as a nation. We'd rather stay in the diaspora and fight for our liberation. We'd rather stay in the diaspora and work for our liberation.
Глупенькие сионисты, вы такие утописты, вы бы лучше шли в рабочие или в трубочисты, вы бы лучше шли в рабочие или в трубочисты. В Иерушалаим идти за вами не желаем, мы в России останемся бороться с Николаем, мы в России не останемся бороться с Николаем.
Wir wollen besser sein in Russland, wir wollen sich befreien.
Yeah. Wallahi, it ain't girls like you out here in the West. I know I've been away, but I'm coming back home. No need to stress, baby. All I know is to be Palestinian, is to always rep where you come from. Except when you're in line at the customs. Told her she can meet me up in London. She let me cause I came from Gaza with love. But I feel like it's forced to go back. From Gaza with love. If they had it their way, we would never go back. From Gaza with love, baby. فلسطين أحسن ساي وبنت بلادي عجباني فضلكم احكوا مش سامع. Continuez à parler, on vous entend pas. 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 Somebody tell Bella Hadid, let's change that to Abdul Hamid. Now I mean to come off too strong, but still أصل فلاحي, I'm planting the seeds. Yeah, I could get you what you need, but I hate it when the text go green. Do you miss me or did you leave, baby? Came from Gaza with love, but I feel like it's forced to have a way back. From Gaza with love, if they had it their way, we would never go back. From Gaza with love, baby. فلسطين أحسن ساي وبنت بلادي عجباني فضلكم احكوا مش سامع. Continuez à parler, on vous entend pas. 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 Continuez à parler, on vous entend pas.
Stamattina mi sono alzato, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Stamattina mi sono alzato e ho trovato l'invaso. Oh partigiano, portami via, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via, che mi sento di morire. se io muoio da partigiano, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. E se muoio da partigiano, tu mi devi seppellire, e seppellire lassù in montagna, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Seppellire lassù in montagna, sotto l'ombra di un bel fior. Tutte le genti che passeranno, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. E le genti che passeranno ti diranno che bel fior. E questo è il fiore del partigiano, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Questo è il fiore del partigiano, morto per la libertà. Questo è il fiore del partigiano, morto per la libertà.
Oh look, we're back with the same old track, but a different cunt. It's Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Yes, he's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Yes, he's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Yes, he's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Rishi Sunak is a rat-faced cunt. He's a rat-faced cunt. Yes, he's a rat-faced cunt. Street where the loyal drums do beat and the lovely English people walked all over us. And every single night when they tell come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra. Tell us how you slew them old Arabs 2 by 2. Like the Zulus, they had nice bows and arrows. Of how bravely you faced one with your 16-pounder gun. And you frightened all the natives to the marrow. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in. It's the first stream of 2024, and oh boy, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. How are we all doing? It's good to see all of you. Welcome in. Hello, Catgirl Steph, Ori, Endless Cemetery, and Johnny. Everybody, please go and follow Johnny. He's a top lad. Amazing streamer. Endless Cemetery says, how goes? Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you for asking. Yeah, just had like a bunch of very, very stressful stuff happen yesterday, which is why Red Planet didn't happen. So I'm very sorry about that. Well, obviously, like, the entirety of Red Planet does not depend on me. It also depends on my other two co-hosts, Kira and Tim. And unfortunately, Tim has been basically like going to the doctor about some stuff. So yeah, that's that basically. So in terms of you know, basically like what to expect from Red Planet, yeah, we've got you know, a bunch of stuff planned, but you know, we're one person down from what we used to be, and so things like this are unfortunately more possible. But we got Prince in the chat as well. We got Sorka as well. Hello, welcome in. But yeah, as for like, you know, how I am, I'm fine. Yeah, managed to like keep a bunch of stuff sorted. Yeah, and that's that basically. How are we all doing? Yeah, how are you all doing? What's good? I'm so sorry. I've been super distracted about like just seems like everything in my fucking life at the moment is just wanting me to like not get anything done. And I'm just like, I'm desperately trying to like just fucking do stuff. But there's just so much stuff going on, and it's like, no, you're not allowed actually. You're not allowed. You're human, lad. You need to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, I'm fine. Like, it's nothing to do with me at all. Don't worry about it. I'm literally fine. But yeah, just getting very distracted by like a bunch of different stuff and whatever. How's the flatmate, Tom? Yeah, Tom's doing great. Tom's fine. Yeah, he's still like getting adjusted in his own way to, you know, living in a new place. Working on some small stuff for myself. Good to hear it, Ori. Yeah, good to hear it. Hey, Rohamild, how are you? Yeah, Tom is currently just like kind of like sat, you know, on the kitchen counter where he's not supposed to be, but I've decided there's no point in getting stressed and shouting at him to get down or whatever, because it's just going to make him more stressed out with me. He's a very clean boy. He's not going to be getting like poo on the fucking kitchen side or whatever, and I'm just going to wipe down the sides before I cook on him anyway, so it's literally fine. But yeah. Hey, Irish Lily, good to see you. How did your cookies and brownies and bread turn out? Yeah, all absolutely fantastic, thank you. Yeah, the bread, I showed that off on stream. I make it, like, all the time, by the way. These things, the things that I cooked, by the way, I think everybody is like, oh my god, he's trying out new recipes. I do this shit all the time. All the fucking time. So they turned out how they always turned out, which is good and nice and great. I've eaten all the cookies. The brownies are always better after being in the fridge for a bit. Extremely rich, really, really nice. So, yeah, very, very good. Thank you. How are you doing? Scotland is very cold right now. I've not had to return to London, so I'm just enjoying the chill. It's 2 degrees today. Might take a walk later. Yeah, we're in 3 degrees, I think, here in Manchester. Feels like -1 with the wind. I went on a walk today with my friend. I went for coffee and then went for a walk with her as well. Went over to some pet stores and stuff to try and find some stuff for Tom. But it turned out all the pet stores that we went to were actually like just for dogs. So it's like dogs only pet stores. I was pretty like annoyed by that. I was like, okay, cool. Preparing for a snowstorm, so went to the store. Nice. Yeah, always good to be prepared. Still a bit tired from a long train ride, and the cold is forcing me to blow my nose all the time, but I would say I'm doing fine. How are you? Yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Yeah, all things considered. All things considered. Long train ride. Where have you been? You been anywhere nice? Been anywhere good? Been home for Christmas and you're on your way back or something? Or yeah. Yeah. Traveling is very tiring. I've not traveled in a long time. Not traveled since like May last year. Anywhere really. Yeah. So I know them ones. I know how that is. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. I'm gonna be covering it as much as humanly possible. We're gonna be taking a look at the Republican governor in Ohio, Mike DeWine, vetoing the ban on transgender healthcare for minors, which is like an interesting development. But then, like, you know, there have been like other things that have happened since then that have basically made it like a lot worse. So just very, very interesting flip-flopping weird shit going on. We're then also going to be looking at Elon Musk. He's been fucking around, courting Nazis, as he is wont to do. No surprise there, coming from, you know, son of a South African blood emerald miner. And we're going to take a little look at Geert Wilders, who is the current Nazi that he is, you know, basically courting. And then on top of that, we're going to have a look at more apartheid stuff. This in particular, we're going to be looking at Alan Dershowitz and the case against Israel in the ICJ. Extremely funny that they got Alan Dershowitz to represent themselves, and I'm going to expand on that later a little bit. But you know, why don't we get into it? Why don't we get right on into it? So, everybody, I want you to get your hazmats on. We're going to go into the politics section of Twitch. So please be mindful. This is, you know, not a cool place to be, essentially. For many reasons, and you'll see why. Might get some people jumping in the fucking chat, and yeah, making our lives awful. Anyway, I'm now buried in blankets and ready to embrace despair. Yes, it's how we do things over here. Anyway, so yeah, let's get straight into it. Let me just make sure everything's set up on this scene. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Ohio governor thing first. It's real weird, and I don't know too much about it, so we're gonna be learning about this together. Let's take a little quick look at this video. It's from Forbes Breaking News. This came out on the 29th of December, so over a week ago now at this point. But let's have a little listen and see if we can get any kind of idea as to what has happened here. Governor Mike DeWine vetoed a bill banning gender-affirming care for children. Are we going to get any video in this, or is it just going to be like... Why are my subtitles Arabic? The only second Republican governor to reject a ban on transgender healthcare. So what's the entire thing that he banned? Oh, this was gender-affirming care for children. And of course, gender-affirming care is like various stuff. The Ohio legislature passed HB 68 on December 18th. Comprehensive bill banning all gender-affirming care for minors, requiring grade schools, public colleges, and private universities to ban transgender students from participating on single-sex sports teams. Hey, Falk, what's going on? Yeah, it's news-type music, yeah. So it's an interesting bill in Ohio in the sense that, like, instead of just like, I guess what they're saying here, unless this is like a terrible reading from the people at Forbes, of which I wouldn't be surprised, instead of banning transgender students from being trans and forcing them to participate in the sport team of their gender that they were assigned at birth, they're just banning trans students from doing any sports team whatsoever unless it's mixed, which is absurd, like even more absurd, makes even less sense. Ryan said he cannot sign this bill as it's currently written. Directed legislators to implement new rules, only restricting more controversial aspects of transgender healthcare. So this is where I think like the next bit came in. So this is what he said. Ohio would be saying that the state or the government knows better than what is medically best for a child, and the two people that love that child the most, the parents, which is like a base thing to say. Let's face it. Let's be real and materialist here. That's true. Not always the case in terms of like an abusive parent, but like if the parents do genuinely love the kids, then yes, that is like generally speaking, like they are going to want trans healthcare for their kid, right? Before making the decision, the governor said he sought out people on all sides of the issue to listen to their concerns. Yeah, actual small government Republican. Including physicians providing gender-affirming care and families of transgender youth. Yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah. So that's the broad strokes of what happened. But then let's take a look at what happened 2 days ago. DeWine bans gender transition surgeries for minors in Ohio. Now, didn't he walk it back? Hey, Plink, yeah, welcome to the stream. So, yeah, this is the interesting thing for me, because then, according to the title of this video from WSYX ABC6, this is like Ohio, I think, like local news or whatever. They're like, oh, well, he's banned gender transition surgeries for minors. So he's like banned a thing that isn't happening, which is just incredible. Yes, we're going to ban surgeries for minors, for gender transition surgeries for minors. Okay, cool, bro. It's like banning, what would be another thing that like doesn't exist? My mind's drawing a blank. It's like banning ghosts. Oh, I'm going to ban ghosts from existing. Okay, all right, bro. I know I believe in ghosts, but so it doesn't make sense. But like, you know what I'm saying, right? It's like, oh, we're going to ban instant transmission Goku stuff. We're going to ban Kamehamehas, actually. We're going to ban people flying. They're not allowed to fly anymore. It's one of those, right? Low-key Human says, ban sex with minor. Why have you said that? What are you talking about? What are you on about? What a weird thing to put in the chat. I don't know what you're on about. Yeah, we're gonna ban perpetual motion. Yeah. So.
I signed an executive order just a few moments ago, enacting emergency rules that ban gender transition surgeries for minors at any hospital or ambulatory surgical facility in Ohio. This ban is effective immediately.
None of this stuff is happening. It's so weird. It's like, what is he? You know, he's doing this like, yeah, we're gonna ban all these things that are not happening. Does that mean banning gender corrective surgery on babies also something they like? Yeah, no, it's obviously not gonna mean that, is it? In the bill, it's gonna be things like, I'm banning penis plasties, or I'm banning vaginoplasties and orchiectomies on minors, and these things just don't happen unless they're in like if it would be like a gender affirming thing. These gender affirming surgeries don't happen, right? Yes, that's the advantage of using weasel words, right? It doesn't even make sense. So,
Ohio law allows for emergency rules so that provisions important to public safety and other important public policy goals specified in statute can be put in place while the full rulemaking process proceeds. This will ensure that surgeries of this type on minors can never happen in Ohio. I know that's
weird. That's weird that he's like so proud of that. Yes, I'm making sure that this stuff that doesn't happen can never happen again. Wow, bro, like you really did it.
one of the concerns that has been expressed. I've never disagreed with that. If we look at what evidence there's very little that is occurring, but let's make sure.
So he admits it. Okay, do you know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. Like, I actually think I see what's happening here. I actually think I see what's happening here. I think this guy is like sick of... This guy's probably really not based in a lot of other ways. This guy's probably cringe in like many other ways. But like, he's absolutely sick to death of this like nonsense, and he's like, none of this stuff is happening, but I need you lot to shut the fuck up so I can do this other dodgy shit that I'm doing, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do we know about this guy? What is his name? Mike DeWine? Is he like a Trump guy? Does he love Trump? Or what's happening? I don't understand. Like, you know, so he vetoed the bill that basically said you're not allowed to have any gender-affirming healthcare, and we're going to force kids to do this kind of stuff at school, and blah, 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 blah. But I am going to do an executive order to ban this made-up thing that you're talking about, right? So he must be doing it just to, like, shut up that, like, part of his voter base where he's like, there's this voter base that just won't shut up about it, and I need to make them do that. So I'm gonna do this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where he's thinking this.
And so that's what this does. I'm happy to.
Okay, cool. Well, that's that, I guess. So let's take a look at this other stuff. So we got some interviews with some people about, this trans medical care ban. If you're right, that's actually kind of genius. Yeah, I think so, Woodbug. Yeah, because it's like, you know, in my head, I'm like, there has to be some other ulterior motive here. Maybe he's just like sick to death of it. Maybe he thinks like this is going to cost us the next election or whatever. But yeah, it's the only thing. It's the only thing I can think of that would make sense. Anyway, we're gonna check out this interview. Hey, Gumba. Yeah, no, we already chatted about that. It wouldn't fall under that because circumcision is not gender affirming. Circumcision is supposed to be like hygienic. That's a whole other issue entirely, right? You know? Excuse me. If we're going to ban gender transition for minors, we should also ban puberty and put puberty blockers in school lunches as a matter of national water. Well, yeah, that would make sense, yeah. Don't want to harsh the mood, but wouldn't it make sense as the point of a wedge for further laws? Yeah, no, I don't think you're harshing the mood here at all. Like, I'm suspicious of it. Like, I want to make that clear. I'm extremely suspicious. I don't think that this guy's based. Do you know what I mean? The fact that these things don't exist doesn't mean they don't work as, look how well received this ban was. Let's do another. Oh, no, yeah, I fully agree, Falk. Yeah. I fully agree. No, yeah, of course, Sorka, you're assuming that, like, you know, they're actually looking at this in the broad scope in the way that, like, trans people have, you know, enlightened me to think about it and enlightened, you know, a lot of other cis people to think about it, and that, like, oh, gender's actually, like, a bit of a joke, really. You know, and if we're going to have these enforced gender norms in society, we should definitely have, you know, puberty blockers as standard, just to make sure that people are absolutely certain, you know, that they want to be the gender that they're, you know, assigned at birth. I mean, it's even easier because how do we meaningfully oppose a ban on made up shit? Yeah, I mean, but like you don't need to oppose a ban on made up stuff, do you? It's like, yeah, no, I don't think anyone like, I don't think there's anyone like, you know, genuinely on the left, you know, in the queer community, in the trans community, who are saying, yes, we absolutely need to be having surgeries, gender affirming surgeries on minors. I don't think anyone's like legitimately saying that. Like, I think that like everybody at the moment is fully in agreement that it's like, yeah, we need puberty blockers to stop puberty from happening, and then later on people can enter the puberty of their choice, right? With gender affirming healthcare. I think that's like the broad accepted notion of it, and obviously that's not going to be everybody's opinion, but yeah, I think it makes sense for everyone. So let's have a look at these, you know, this interview here.
Ohio House Bill 68 was passed by the state Senate.
The bill would ban gender-affirming care for transgender youth. It would also stop transgender athletes from taking part in women's sports.
Fox 19's Peyton Marshall joins us with some reaction from Ohioans.
Yeah, Rob, Tricia, in addition to House Bill 68 passing, it's important to note that just earlier this morning, a grandfather clause was added for Ohio residents already undergoing treatment. Either way, this topic is extremely heated on both sides.
Stand here today and say I am not comfortable with what's going on with the scientific evidence, and I stand in support of both of these bills before us today.
Nobody's saying
I'm not comfortable with what did this guy just say? Who is this?
Either way, this topic is extremely heated on both sides.
Stand here today and say I am not comfortable with what's going on with the scientific evidence.
He's not comfortable with the scientific evidence. Yes, exactly. You know, Falk says that's what I'm getting at as a possible explanation for this. He's passed a nonsense ban, but it's one he can point to uncritical support for. It's a solid scheme. Oh, you mean like he's done it so that like left-wing people and right-wing people will support him and vote for him? Is that what you're saying? I understand that concern. Yeah, for sure. And I agree entirely.
And I stand in support of both of these bills before us today.
Nobody's saying, "Oh, I want my kid to be trans." It's hard. It's hard to be trans, especially in the society we're in right now.
Local activist Jamie James is not surprised that the Senate voted to pass House Bill 68 on Wednesday.
Are you shocked that it passed with a 24-8 vote?
Not at all. They seem to go along party lines. What lawmakers are doing is they're displacing their own residents.
Oh, I mean, the next ban of an actual thing, he could say that these bills are traditionally popular. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm with you. What are you giving me here, Johnny? Vetoed an anti-trans bill, then he made it worse. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine got a lot of credit when vetoing an anti-trans bill from his own party, but pay attention to what came next. What's the broad strokes of this? Oh, we got Erin here talking about this. Okay, let's have a look at this. Yeah, I'm happy to like hear what Erin's got to say. No, don't take me to her profile. That's Twitter is so broken. Just let me watch the video.
Will provide protections for children and adults receiving care in this area from hospitals and clinics.
Whoa, what? Had to manually set your stream to 160p to stop it buffering because the auto apparently can't tell when 720p is buffering for too long. Is anyone else having an issue with that? Anyone else having an issue with like watching the stream in general? Just give me a 1 if you're good, and a 2 if you're having a bad time. Speaking of buffering, like, come on, man, this is what's fucking going on here? What's fucking going on here? Stream seems okay. 1. Think it's your Wi-Fi? Oh, okay. Yeah, Twitter's buffering like a fucking cunt. What's going on here? Oh, bro, please. Is it trying to get me to continue watching it on Twitter? Is that what it is? Is that what what's just happened?
Will provide protections for children and adults receiving care in this area from hospitals and clinics. Candidly, as I expressed a week ago, I am concerned that there could be fly-by-night providers, clinics that might be dispensing medication to adults with no counseling and no basic standards to assure quality care. With the rules that we are announcing today, that will take care of that. We need to ensure that adults as well as children are protected. These draft rules will be discussed at length with legislators and interested parties and will include the following. 1, the requirement of a multidisciplinary team to support an individual through care, including but not limited to an endocrinologist, a bioethicist, and a psychiatrist. 2nd, the requirement of a comprehensive care plan that includes sufficient informed consent from patients and parents, if we're dealing with a child, of the risk associated with treatment, and the requirement of comprehensive and lengthy mental health counseling prior to being considered for any other treatment. And let me just add that as I spent time looking at this and listening to people, it's clear that the most important part is the mental health counseling.
No, so he didn't. So he didn't spend time listening to people concerned about, what effect this bill would have on them. Because if he did, he would learn that people would die as a result of this. A bioethicist, you need to see an ultrasound of your gender before you're allowed to change it. Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. So he has made it worse. So I don't understand. What is this? Is this supposed to be? Is he like past this already? Proposes adult trans restrictions at lengthy waiting periods at a team including endocrinologist, bioethicist, psychiatrist. Yeah, so he's done that. Decided to expand restrictions on gender-affirming care to Ohioans of all ages. So this is a bill that he's going to put forward, and it's going to get passed. That's what we're looking at here, basically. Yeah. Let's listen to the stuff about the initial ban passing.
Forcing them to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, behind a huge paywall.
Not creating an environment that's open for everyone.
The bill would ban minors from receiving gender-affirming care and prevent transgender student athletes from playing on women's sports teams.
What would you say to people who feel?
Sometimes I'm mad at YouTubers for not balancing their audio correct, but this fucking news report is just as garbage.
Feel that it's unfair.
These are youth sports. These are sports, and youth sports should be about inclusion, and every child should have the opportunity to be included in every student activity.
House Bill 68 does not restrict the
You're so fucking quiet. What's going on?
eligibility of any student to participate in co-ed or male-designated athletic teams or competitions.
What are some of the realities?
Christ, it's like the fucking audio's crackling and everything.
That you wish would be relayed for these trans youth?
Well, the realities are they know who they are. Most kids who go into gender clinics or go for gender issues don't
Yeah, that's right, low-key.
blockers.
Jamie says most trans youth are typically referred to psychologists and psychiatrists, not prescribed hormone blockers.
The SAFE Act also prohibits Medicaid coverage of gender transition services for minors, but it would still cover mental health services for a gender-related condition.
It's crucial to note that on Wednesday morning, ahead of the vote, senators added a grandfather clause to the bill, granting Ohio residents
They're always doing that, Sorka, yeah.
treatment
That's a common thing to do on
if you're
news
already undergoing it,
reporting.
you should be at least allowed to continue it. But I think as a state going forward, we need to have a lot better science behind backing what is going on here. And until that happens, we need to be passing and supporting substitute House Bill 68.
Jamie feels this.
They could all just like watch one YouTube video and understand it completely. This is the most absurd thing about like what they're proposing. What they're saying is, we need to understand it more. And it's like, bro, you can just, it's all there. It's all there for you. You can speak to one doctor. You can speak to literally one doctor. And they'll be like, yes, no, this is the best thing to do. Otherwise, this child will, you know, be suicidal and maybe die. So that's the end of it. You know, it's not the same tactics they did with abortion. I don't think they can get away without making it illegal yet and put as many barriers as they can. Right? Okay. Yeah. You also saw that poor people can't afford that stuff. He doesn't like the pause. It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Vote is revoking power from parents and putting it in the hands of lawmakers. Jamie feels the trans community is being, quote, outed for existing.
I mean, prior to coming out, I had very little issues with housing or dealing with parenting my children. And since I've come out, I've had Children's Protective Services called on me. I've had landlords threaten me. I've had more issues than I had the entirety of my life before.
And right now, House Bill 68 heads to Governor Mike DeWine's desk. I do want to add that in past, Governor Mike DeWine has questioned the need for banning transgender student athletes, saying that it's really a matter to be handled by leagues and athletic associations. But of course, we're going to be keeping you updated as we learn more information from Governor DeWine's administration.
Okay, so he so that was the historic ban that passed. Don't want to say historic because it was only literally a month ago. And then we got through some more stuff 3 weeks ago. Transgender athlete healthcare ban passes Ohio Senate. Let's have a look at this one.
Some protesters gathering at the Ohio State House today as a bill makes its way through the legislature. Just in the last hour, the Senate passed House Bill 68, which would prohibit transgender girls and women from playing on female sports teams and prevent doctors from prescribing hormones, puberty blockers, and gender.
Pardon me?
68, which would prohibit transgender girls and women from playing on female sports teams.
It's just always trans women, isn't it? It's just always trans women. Like, not even speaking about trans guys. The thing is, they don't want to speak about trans guys because what they know is, as soon as a trans guy starts to take testosterone, he's gonna get fucking hench, right? And it's it just kind of defeats any argument that they could possibly have about trans women are just they're taking hormones and then they're gonna compete in sports just because they weren't able to win before, but they are now because they'll go on women's teams and they'll beat all the women. It's oh my god, you just don't understand anything about muscle atrophy or I'm just so sick of this fucking argument, and I'm not even trans, it's such a joke. It's because trans women are giving up masculinity. That's why they're the target of ire. Yeah, well, no, in the broad patriarchal view of the world, yeah, for sure. Personally, I imagine it's the case of him being weak and folding into party pressure. He had the chance to be in an ally, instead he was more worried about their job. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. Might be a bit of both, because he sounds like the kind of Republican that's a bit of a libertarian. You know what I mean? When he's saying we need to leave it open to leagues and parents, commissions, committees, and stuff like that. Sounds like a bit of a libertarian thing to say, rather than I'm a conservative, but I'm socially liberal. It's less that and more libertarian, I think. I can confirm I never had masculinity. Yeah. Well, what is masculinity? It's a joke, isn't it? Really. Leave it to the parents is also the new Christian nationalist language. Also, yeah, there you go. Yeah. I don't think it's any kind of Yeah. It's odd to hear it, but then again, like the politics that we see in America right now, under what I'm calling gender apartheid, because it literally is. You know, what with the abortion bans and trans healthcare bans that we're seeing like all over the US. It's gender apartheid, like living gender apartheid, and I want to analyze this what's going on here in a more broad way. Because what we currently have is, and I said this on Blue Sky, and there are liberals on Blue Sky who are so mad at me for like saying this because it's true, right? It's actually true. I've said this, and everyone who's been here for like the last fucking, you know, when did Biden get elected? 2020? You know, since 2020. I've been saying, like, why is he not doing what Trump did and signing loads of fucking executive orders and changing all this horrible stuff, doing all the promises that he said? But I knew why. It was just sort of like a hypothetical question, right? It's like, why is he not doing that? Oh, right, well, it's because he's a fucking plank. Because he's a centrist, warmongering prick like all the fucking Democrats. You know? And so now when you bring up, like, oh, why has Biden not signed anything? Why has he not done anything? Why has he not codified stuff into law? Why has he not done this? Blah, blah, blah. They'll say, well, do you want Trump? Do you want Trump? He's a fascist. It's like, bro, trans people are facing fascism right now. Literally right now. This is literally gender apartheid. Like, are you thick? Like, what? You know what I mean? But they're not thick. They're just, they just won't see it. They won't see it. They refuse to see it. It's ignorance. You know, willful fucking ignorance, because they've just like had this fucking like neoliberal brain poison, and it's like, no, just vote, just vote, just vote. Just keep voting, just keep giving the Democrats money. That's how you do it. It's like, no, that's what they're telling you. You know, it's like I'm absolutely certain that like the trans people who are in Ohio right now are not gonna feel a fucking difference if Donald Trump gets into the next presidency, because Donald Trump has just said, I will be doing a ban on transgenders entirely. Like, it's already happening, bro. It's already happening, just like on a small scale. When people say that, like, oh, you shouldn't not vote for Biden because you just want Trump, what they're really saying is like, actually, I don't care about trans people in Republican states. Right? They're just saying that. They're saying, oh, I care about trans people in Democratic states. Just get the poor trans kids who have no autonomy, no agency whatsoever, and they've got abusive parents. Just let them move to a Democratic state. That's what you should do. What are you talking about? These people don't live in reality. You know? I'm convinced that liberals think that any change to the status quo is fascism. They're dedicated to conserving the status quo. Yeah, that's what it is. Genuinely impossible to get liberals involved in a struggle outside of a Republican presidential administration. Yeah. Literally, like, there's a Cheeto in the White House. Oh, no. Like, literally, oh, no. Biden isn't even a roadblock for fascists, so, like, at least with Trump in power, people knew they had to fight. This is the thing! This is what stresses me out so much. It's what stresses me out so much, and this is why, like, all the pro-Palestine, you know, anti-Zionist stuff that's going on all over the USA is, like, really, really good and inspiring and hopeful, because people are realizing, oh, actually, the Democrats are just vile genociders. So, you know, you got, like, oh, well, you know, the two options are, do we have genocide at home or genocide abroad? And even if we have genocide abroad, there's a little bit of genocide at home, you know? Yeah, if you don't like it, move is a mindset I constantly run into here. Hello, Gobs. Everybody, please go show some love to Goblin Hugger. They're amazing. Very, very good streamer. Hopefully that's not an API. No, there we go. They won't even fight Trump for good reasons. They pick on his appearance and perceived intellect and that of his supporters. Yeah. It's just not. It's not a point. It's not a point that is. They never come up with points that are actually like based on materialism. It's all ideological stuff. Seeing the UAW that they're going to be forcing transitions from the weapons manufacturing is so much bigger than anything the Dems are bringing. Yeah, and that's people power. That's organizing, right? That's organizing. That's where the actual hope is. The actual hope is there. Yeah. Oh, shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
and prevent doctors from prescribing hormones, puberty blockers, and gender reassignment surgery before the age of 18. And with that, we thank you for joining us for NBC4 at 5. I'm Jennifer Bullock.
I'm Jared Smalley. The bill still needs to be approved again by the House before it officially lands on Governor Mike DeWine's desk. NBC4 State House reporter Natalie Fahmy joins us now live.
American liberals would love Thatcher so much. Yeah, well, that's because like the American neoliberalism was Reagan, wasn't it? Even though like Reagan was a Republican, you know, his whole shtick was it's the individual that matters, and you can make something out of yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and like, oh yeah, we're fighting the Soviets because they don't have freedom in the Soviet Union. You know what I mean?
To tell us what's next in this process, Natalie.
We want freedom, but like freedom is just like not a thing.
Jennifer, Jared, like you said, the Senate passed the bill less than 1 hour ago, and for about the past hour, the House has actually been on recess. It's up to them now to take the bill up for concurrent.
She got a key around her neck? Who is this? What's this person's name?
Vote. Actually
Natalie Fahmy? Is that her name? Someone just like, I was just like, is she Palestinian? Key to my heart, probably. Oh no, you know, look, this was happening during, you know, the last 3 weeks, and I'm just like, is she Palestinian? Anyway, just yeah.
It's up to them now to take the bill up for a concurrent vote. House Bill 68 combines two bills, the Save Women's Sports Act, which bans transgender athletes from participating on teams that align with their gender identity, and the Saving Adolescents from Experimentation Act, which bans minors from receiving certain health care that relates to transitioning. Supporters of the bill say it will help level the playing field for athletes. According to the Ohio High School Athletic Association, 19 trans girls have participated in girls' sports since they implemented a policy allowing so 8 years ago.
Right, and how have those girls fared? Did they absolutely batter the opposition? Like, did they destroy their opponents? Did they absolutely win? Like, you know, there's never any like mention of any of that, is there? Ohio is a massive state, by the way. Like, let's Google, let's take a look, chat. Ohio in square kilometers. Yeah, let's have a look at that. Let's see what that says. It's 116,000 square kilometers. That's the size of England. Yeah, that's the size of England. And what's the population? So population of Ohio, 11 million. Right, so it was 11 million. 19 kids out of 11 million people. Still weirdly less transphobic than England by volume. Well, yeah. Weirdly. Yeah, by volume. Yeah, if you think about the numbers, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Supporters also say it will help ensure minors don't make decisions they will regret, but opponents call the legislation harmful. More than 600 have testified against the bill compared to 50.
Like, I love this, like, this whole fucking thing. It's like, oh well, what if they regret it? Oh well, then they regret it and they detransition. That's the end of it. Actually, that's the end of that discussion. You know, being able to transition also implies being able to detransition. And there are multiple people who've detransitioned. Like, that's the end of that argument. That's the end of it. Yeah, the Save Women's Sports Act. Fuck you. Yeah, they don't care about girls' sports. You're right, Steph. Yeah, they don't give a shit about that shit. They've never, ever given a shit about that shit until they found out that there might be some transgenders doing it. You know what I mean?
6 supporters of the legislation.
Somewhere along the line, the state does have to intervene.
Oh, here's that guy that doesn't like science, right? Is that the same guy?
And, you know, it's one of those
Matt
things
Huffman?
that really is a protection of the child kind of thing.
I know young people are worried about, like, how will this affect my mental health? I know young people are worried about how will this impact my ability to stay in Ohio. Young people shouldn't have to worry about these things.
Literally. Oh, yeah, and they chopped her right off as well. She had so much more to say, and they just... It's... Thank you for the follow. It's so, like, it's... Save Children from Experimentation Act. Yeah, what experimentation? Yeah, there's no experimentation going on. Arguably, you could say that, like, cis hetero white normative imperialist colonialist gender norms, like gender binaries, are experimental, and those experiments have failed, haven't they? The proof of that is that transgender people exist and always have done. You know, that's the end of it. The proof of that is that there are multiple examples of indigenous cultures all throughout history having more than 2 genders, more than 3. You know, it's...
Young people shouldn't have to worry about these things.
Look how hard they just cut her off. Well, I don't want to say her. Like, look how hard they just cut that person off right there. You know. And they're not even being like that. This is so lazy. This is super lazy editing. Like, I do a lot of like vox pops like this for GMTU, right? And it's like, you don't, if you cut off what someone says for whatever reason, you don't include them. You don't just cut off the audio and then keep the fucking shit going. Do you know what I mean? It's just so absurd.
Again, if the House does concur with what the Senate just passed, that's the last step before it heads to the governor's desk. I did reach out to the governor's office. They say he will review the legislation as it comes to his desk.
Hey, Hamburless. Yeah, right. The experimental things that we believe in, like science and reality. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Reverse J cut. Well, a reverse J cut is an L cut. So now you know.
For you at the State House, I'm Natalie Fahmy, NBC4.
Yeah, they did the L cut, but without putting anything under the L, like where the actual like L is, you know? So that's that. Absolute vile bullshit. Gender affirming care access for Ohio transgenders to be restricted on new administrative rules. So this is what we're learning here. So I had like just so you know, like this title that I like put here, yeah. Ohio governor vetoes trans ban. The reason that I put that there like that is because I initially was like gonna call it, I can't remember what I was gonna call this segment. I think I was gonna call it like Ohio bans trans healthcare. But then I was Googling a bit of it, and the first thing that came up was that this guy had vetoed it, and I hadn't heard anything about that. So apologies for the misleading title here. But yeah, so that's where we're up to with that. My apologies. But we're done with that bit. We're done with that segment. That segment's done. We've spent a bit of time on it. It's like an hour into the stream. So here we go. There we go. L cut is just audio technically. Yeah. That's right. They nailed the L in the L cut. Yeah, they really did. Really did. Chat, thank you for bearing with us through that. We got some more upsetting things to look at in a second, but before I do, I'm just going to remind everyone that doing this is my full-time job. It's where I get most of my income from. So please consider subbing off Twitch. The command is right here in the chat. I'm going to stick it right there. And basically, all I'm asking is for £500 a month. It means that 100 people, who I know, definitely 100 people pass through the stream. I know this because I look at the numbers over a month. If every single person donated £5, I'd easily be able to achieve my £500 goal. So please consider just donating the same that you would donate via doing it on Twitch or whatever. But Twitch is a terrible website, and they ban people for talking about Palestine, like actually like saying truthful and correct things about Palestine, just based on the fact that loads of people will report people for talking about Palestine because apparently it's terrorist apologia, which is very cool and good, isn't it? Those people are going to look very cool in the annals of history. They're definitely going to be on the right side of history, aren't they? But on top of that, there are lots of other things that Twitch does that makes me believe that I don't think they deserve the money that they get. And that is also the fact that they may ban some people for streaming about Palestine, but other people, they don't, because it makes them a lot of money. And if they ban that person, it would mean that they take a huge cut So they're motivated by cash. They're motivated by capital. So please consider taking that away from him. It also means 100% of the money comes towards me, your boy, Donkus Jonkus. And, you know, whether you've learned something, laughed, or whatever, it means that I will actually be able to pay my bills, my rent, survive for the month. And that would be very, very cool. So, yeah. Thank you very much for listening to the spiel. There it is in the chat. And, yeah, you could do that if you are financially capable. If you're not financially capable, don't worry about it. Just being here and supporting the stream is enough. It's all I could really ask. So we're going to jump on to the next thing. We're going to have a look at the next thing in the stream now, and that is about Elon Musk. Content warnings for this one. Bit of Islamophobia and xenophobia, you know. We got Elon Musk out here really doing just like some absolutely awful shit. So I don't really have access to this article, but we can talk about it like briefly because I know the context of this. But this next segment is called Elon Musk Loves Nazis. Because he does. I found this statement to be true in multiple scenarios. So at the moment, the tweet, actually, I'm going to try and find the tweet. Twitter, Elon Musk, get Wilders. Let's take a look here. I'm sure we'll be able to find a tweet. Need a content warning just for showing Elon. Yeah, it's true. There's the Bloomberg thing. Excuse me. So we can find something here. Oh yeah, here we go. So here's the tweet. So here's what it said. So Geert Wilders says, the biggest problem we face today, Elon Musk, is a collapse of our own culture and Western values due to open borders, mass immigration, an uncontrollable amount of non-Western asylum seekers, and last but not least, too many weak politicians advocating cultural relativism. And Elon Musk responded saying, agreed. But even countries that have very few immigrants, like Korea and Japan, are experiencing population collapse. If the birth rate stays as low as it is, the Dutch nation will die out by its own hand. So what was Geert Wilders responding to? Well, Elon Musk was doing his like very quote-unquote normal shit that he loves to say. He loves to talk about this stuff. So he did one of these tweets where, you know, his absolutely unhinged followers are just saying things like, population collapse is the biggest threat to civilization. Here's what's happening in the world. South Korea's record low fertility rate. Indiana's birth rate fell dramatically. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know, who fucking gives a shit for a start? No one fucking cares. But Elon Musk is famous for being one of these weird guys that like thinks that he needs to have as many babies as possible because he has a high IQ. IQ existing in general is like problematic because it's got like overtones of racism, and you know it's basically that's where IQ came from. And you know he's saying that the biggest problem that humanity faces is population collapse. Yeah? Like, sorry, do you mean that like you know, not even like looking, yeah? Not even like looking at the fact that population collapse, not population collapse, but let's talk about like people choosing to not have kids, yeah? People choosing to not have kids. The main reason for that is A, economic precarity, yeah? People's material conditions are getting very, very bad because capitalism is going into hyper-capitalism, late-stage capitalism mode. Secondly, people are terrified that if they bring a kid into the world, it would have to suffer under the, you know, vast changes that climate change will bring about. And that will be horrific for even people who are still alive in their like 60s, 70s, 80s when all that kind of stuff happens. So why bring kids into the world for them to also suffer? So these extra things. But of course, like, you know, broadly speaking, capital and capitalism needs people to have you know, loads and loads of babies so that they have like a workforce, right? That's what reproductive labor is all about. You know, women stay in the kitchen, stay at home, have kids. That's your entire job. Yeah, again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And that's what it is. What the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck are you? What are you? What's your shit? Account created 10th of June 2016. XBOCTATII. I don't even know how to say your fucking name. Like, what you want about, bro? My man says, why tags? Communism and LGBT people stand in the same line. After all, normal communists for traditional values because this is correct in the norm. You don't even make sense. I don't even know what you're on about. What are you fucking talking about? What you want about? This doesn't even make sense. Like the first thing that you've said in the stream. Like what are you fucking talking about? Gob says, I have so many friends who would want to be parents, or would be parents if their lives weren't so goddamn precarious. I would have kids. I would have kids tomorrow. It's like been a fucking dream of mine. Do you know what I mean? I would adopt a kid tomorrow. I would like, you know, do like whatever, like I don't know, get involved with like a fucking a lesbian couple and you know, give them, they can have some sperm, we can have an egg, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I would do that shit. I would do that shit. He's saying you're pro-communism and pro-LGBT, but it's contradicting in his opinion. Oh, yeah. No, I know that, Sunbro. Also, welcome to the stream, Sunbro. I know that. I'm just trying to get him to say it out loud so that we can laugh at him and berate him for it. That's what's going on here. Just so you know, I know that you're like, you know, you've definitely like followed the stream for like quite a while and shit like that. So you might not know how I operate, but when we get an idiot, like someone who's like, you know, completely ridiculous, what I do is I play the idiot a little bit to enhance how much of an idiot they are. That's what we do. But it doesn't seem that they're falling for it because now they understand just how stupid they're being and how much we're going to tear them a new fucking asshole when they come in with their absurd, contradictory opinion that has no basis in materialism. We're clearly more intelligent than they are. We're going to move on with the stream and we're going to keep having a good time. So that's the end of that, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, this is the thing. I would have kids. I would have kids tomorrow if my economic position wasn't so like terrible, right? And I know many people who is exactly the same. It's exactly the same for them. But anyway, Elon Musk is like, people aren't having children and I'm a billionaire. I don't understand why. It's like, you know, I just can't think of a more obvious way to see someone who just has absolutely no understanding. Oh, here we go. He's back. He's back. Here we go. Yeah. Let's have a little look here. Right. So there he is. Yeah. No, he has actually responded. It took you a while to write that, didn't it? Took you a while to write that. So let's see what you're saying there. In the USSR. Right. Well, that's irrelevant, isn't it? Because we're not in the USSR. So I don't know what you're going to say next. The leftist communist country was imprisoned for propaganda of LGBT people. So the USSR was imprisoned, was it? I don't think that's true, is it? I don't think that happened. Because communism is a materialistic ideology, and according to her, the family is a man and a woman. I don't think there's any communist text that says that, and I don't know why you're trying to gender communism. Don't know what's going on there. But no, the family is not a man and a woman, is it? Yeah. You know? So that's that, isn't it? So first of all, first incorrect thing, in the USSR. We're not in the USSR. So, completely irrelevant. Leftist communist country was in prison for propaganda of LGBT people. No, the entire country was not imprisoned. Also, the USSR wasn't a country per se. It was a collection of different states. Yeah? It was a collection of different Soviet councils. That's what the USSR was, right? Communism is a materialistic ideology. That's the one thing that you got right. That's the one thing that's correct in your statement. But here's the thing, saying that the family is a man and a woman, well, for a start, that's not materialist. It's not based in any materialism whatsoever. And there's no communist text that says that. So that's the end of that, isn't it? You're wrong. So there you go. Escanor TOWTM says having a kid is a scam. Please elaborate on that. As you can see, we're interacting with chat today. Wish we had a socialist family system like Cuba. Sometimes a family is just 7 dads. Yeah. Failing to take into account actual communist countries that exist, socialist countries that exist right now that have, like, you know, passed the most progressive LGBT friendly laws, family laws in history. You know, so, like, you know, I don't know what you're trying to say here. Do you know what I mean? People think that, like, every communist exists 20, 30 years ago when the USSR still existed, and it's like, no, I'm here right now. I'm here right now, actually. You know? And, you know, my man's talking about tags, but, you know, I'm just going to double check because I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I thought in my tag... No, it does. It says in my tags, actually, anarchist. It does actually say that I'm an anarchist in my tags. So my man's talking about tags, but, you know, cherry-picked LGBT and communist, whilst also missing out a very important one that's in there, which is anarchist, isn't it? And another one that's called Antifa. So I'm against fascism, even if it comes in a communist coat. And I'm also against hierarchies, even if they come under a communist system. So again, you've completely missed things on purpose, attempting to do an ad hominem attack on me. Even more, LGBT is a right minority ideology where the minority LGBT dictates the rules of life to the majority. Yeah, okay, dude. Yeah, cool. Definitely. Hey, Pat Potato, good to see you. What's good? This guy's fucking great. Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. LGBT is a right minority ideology. It certainly is, dude. You got that right. Oh, you got us. Actually, we're all just Nazis. Yeah, that's what we are. We're all just Nazis. Yeah. God, this is fucking funny, man. This is fucking funny. It's funny because it's like, I remember, like, you know, again, well, you're right, Queen Pip. This is exactly like the cooking stream where that person came in and went, of course you're cooking liberal food. It's like the kids are just, like, using Twitter again, like, you know, come on, be real, man. You got homework to do, innit? You got homework to do and you shouldn't be here. Yeah? You got homework to do and you shouldn't be here. You know? Anyway, there you go. Queen Pib, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Happy New Year. Everybody, please go follow Queen Patricia Inga Bogart. Amazing. So anyway, coming back to this. You know, so Elon Musk he's like reinforcing that, like, capitalist idea that, like, we need more bodies for the workforce. We need more babies to be made. We need this, and this, yeah? And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like he's just saying the quiet part out loud, but I don't even think he knows that that's what's going on here. But then Geert Wilders has quote tweeted this, saying that, like, the biggest problem we face today is collapse of our own culture, Western values due to open borders. Like, basically doing blood libel. This guy's a fucking Nazi, right? This guy's a fucking Nazi. So let's have a little look at who Geert Wilders is, yeah? Let's have a little look at who Geert Wilders is, right? Geert Wilders, is that how you actually say his name? Geert Wilders. I've been saying his name all wrong. Well, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna stop saying his name wrong because I think it's funny. Because I think he's a smelly fucking piece of shit. Look, he looks like he's had plastic surgery to look like Donald Trump. Like, he's got the same hair. He's got the same smile. Do you know what I mean? My man's getting so fucking, like, mad that we're not listening to him. This guy's saying, that is laws that give more rights at the expense of the majority. Is this not a right-wing ideology? When capitalists are a minority, dictate the rules of society is our left ideology. Bro, you're not even making sense. You're not even making sense, dude. Like, I'm not going to engage in your argument because the way you're framing it is just wrong. You're like saying laws that give more rights at the expense of the majority. Like, that's just simply not true. The majority is not suffering because, like, what? A law says you can't beat up a gay man. What are you talking about? I'm right wing, his plastic surgeon, and say no more, probably. Yeah, literally. Literally. Get Wilders looks like a villain from a Final Fantasy game. Yeah, definitely does. Hey, Icked Trunks. I'm sorry to hear you have a concussion. Let's get some love in the chat for Trunks. I'm sorry you're going through that. It sucks to have a concussion, honestly. Honestly.
Has won big in the Netherlands general elections. With almost all the votes counted, his Freedom Party is on track to double their number of seats in parliament. But without an outright majority, building a coalition government is likely to be difficult for Wilders. Most parties have already ruled out working with him and his anti-migration and Eurosceptic party.
Wij willen meedoen en wij willen besturen.
We want to rule, and with our seats, we will rule.
Look at this picture of him in the background. It's so funny. My man knows too much. He knows way too much.
The Freedom Party will rule.
Zal dat gaan doen.
After 25 years in Parliament, Geert Wilders could be about to become the new
Geert Wilders. That's actually how you say his name.
Dutch Prime Minister.
I'm going to keep calling him Geert Wilders.
But despite his Freedom Party getting the most votes, his polarizing policies could make it difficult to find coalition.
No, I should have added Queen Pib. I was responding with a sarcasm. Oh. Okay, that's my bad. Actually, Bill Hader in a wig. Yeah, he is, yeah.
Partners. He has pledged to curb immigration, ban mosques and the Quran. He has even promised a controversial referendum on his country's EU membership, dubbed Nexit. An idea that is
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Really putting off his potential partners in government. But the door to a deal may still be open. All eyes are set on who might join Wilders in power, with some now changing their tune from their position during the election campaign.
I do not see how the Freedom Party can form majorities. That is still unclear. But the lead now really lies with Mr. Geert Wilders. He has to work on that, and we will quietly discuss in the group tomorrow how we will deal with this result.
Should talks with Wilders fail, the Conservative Party's new leader has other options. She could seek to form a centre-right government with a left-wing alliance led by former EU climate chief Frans Timmermans.
That would just go so bad. That would just go so badly. Like, okay, we're going to have like a conservative government who is focused on profit, focused on cronyism, focused on neoliberal bullshit, yeah? We're gonna ally with the Greens. We're gonna ally with the Greens. We're gonna ally with the left to keep the fascists that we've actually, stoked up in their voting for Geert Wilders. Yeah, and we're gonna stop them from getting into power by doing this like made up coalition that no one believes in, and it's just gonna fuck the country even harder. You know.
But that could be tricky, with the pair spending most of the election highlighting.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fucking like sit here while you just post like Cyrillic in the chat, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like,
their differences.
Like, you're a fucking coward, man. You know what I mean? Like, my man's like obviously like putting like a bunch of slurs in there and shit like that. Like, you are he can't even see because I've turned on the thing where like you can't watch a stream if you're banned. So, like, there's not even any point in berating him. But yeah, it's like, fuck this guy. Fuck him.
Whatever happens, many analysts believe
If they're like the
it could
Canadian
take
Greens, they're
months
already
to form a new
fascists.
government. European leaders are watching closely as they fear that Wilders' victory could boost similar populist ideals across the EU.
And DW's Lucia Schulten.
Are you joking? Like, you know, they sit there and they're like, oh, this could boost their right-wing attitudes across the EU. Like, that's already happening in fucking Poland, in fucking Hungary, in fucking Austria, Italy, like the UK. Like, are you joking me, man? Are you joking me?
Has more on Geert Wilders and the possibility of him becoming the next Prime Minister of the Netherlands.
This is still too early to say who's going to sit in this office right behind me, which is the...
It's just so funny whenever they cut to Argentina. Argentina's not in the EU. I hate to break it to you, Wicked Trugs, but Argentina is not in the EU. It's actually in Latin America, just so you know. I'm sure you know that, though. I think you might have just misunderstood what I was commenting on there. It's always just so funny to me whenever they like cut to like footage of Holland, like the Netherlands. It's just like, it looks like a flooded town, and because it is, isn't it? It's just like a swamp that they built stuff on.
office of the Prime Minister, where for now is still Mark Rutte sitting. If this will be Geert Wilders, will the time have to show, because as we've heard, he has to form a coalition. He needs a coalition where he gets 76 seats in the parliament, which is the majority. As of now, he has 37 seats, so that means there's still way to go to find a coalition that backs him, and then also backs him as being the Prime Minister.
So he's got the most votes, but he's not beaten the first past the post system of getting the 76 votes. So he's halfway to getting it. Like, if that says anything about anything, it says that the apathy that people in the Netherlands have towards the political system is at an all-time high. Yeah? So I'm not afraid of this, because this is just where the stuff that we're seeing in every country all over the world is going at the minute. It's hyper-capitalism, right? It's hyper-capitalism. And in that hyper-capitalism, governments have to, like, say, shut the fuck up to the people. We don't care, actually, what you want or what you need. We just have to keep making deals for our friends to keep giving them money, no matter how bad that affects the population. And so we have to, like, stoke, like, fascist reactionaries, because then they'll support us. And then, like, you know, if anything happens, like a left-wing revolution, we'll have fascists to defend us. That's literally all that's going to happen. This is why none of us should have any faith in electoral politics. This is it relates to everything. It relates to the stuff that I was talking about previously about liberals who are like saying, "Oh, so you want Trump, do you? You hate Biden, so you want Trump." It's like, yeah, you know, you're not understanding the broader context of what's going on. You're not understanding the material conditions that people are like suffering under right now, and why actually, like, you know, just displaying an apathy for voting in general will send a message to everybody all over the world that actually we need to abandon these systems. We need to abandon these fucking systems because they're not serving us. They're just not serving us. The main Lib party that the current PM Mark Rutte belongs to got the second most, if I remember right. This was a few weeks ago. Yeah, it's a few weeks ago, this stuff now. But anyway, this is the person that Elon Musk is you know, being friendly with on Twitter, saying things like agreed. All this horrible, racist, disgusting Nazi shit that you're saying is true, actually.
Talks will start very soon, and as we have already
and
heard,
so, like, what Elon Musk is like trying to do, he's trying to use his wealth and power to influence the Dutch government to have some kind of forced breeding program. Like that's kind of like what I'm reading from it. Elon Musk is this guy who is like, yeah, I've had like 12 kids or whatever, however many kids Elon Musk has got, and that's what everybody should be doing. That's what everybody should be doing.
There's been a bit more cautious opinions about whether, for example, the VVD, which is Mark Rutte's party, which is now led by Dylan Dershowitz, should go into a coalition or not, or also the new party of Peter Omtzigt. They have been a bit more cautious in their phrasing in the last couple of hours. So for now, we still have to wait and see.
There you go. So that's Geert Wilders. So, you know, that's who he's kind of courting at the minute. I got a video here as well from CNBC. It's a bit more of more current, contemporary, up-to-date Elon Musk news, where he's basically like, this is just like so funny. It's so incredibly funny that like this is being discussed. This is where we're at. Like, conservatives really think they have an ideology. They really think they have like a good ideology, where what they're talking about is like, well, you know, we need to be worried about our CEO's drug use, actually, yeah, because what they can't say out loud is this man, despite having all the money in the world, he can't make good business decisions. They're not allowed to say that, because if they said that, the mask would be off the whole operation, wouldn't it? So what they have to say is, well, we saw him smoking weed on Joe Rogan once, and he said that he's used cocaine and ketamine, so maybe we can use that to oust him from the company. And then hopefully our company can make some more money, because we're losing shares pretty fucking rapidly due to the way that he's talking on fucking Twitter and the way that he's running Twitter and shit. So let's take a look at this report. Try and analyze it from a materialist viewpoint.
And now to a piece that was in the Journal, Wall Street Journal over the weekend. It says some executives and board members at Elon Musk's companies are persistently concerned about his drug use. Musk has previously...
Oh, they're persistent, are they? I wonder why.
And on the Joe Rogan podcast. And he has said that he has a prescription for ketamine. Now, the Journal report cites people who have witnessed Mr. Musk's alleged drug use and others who have knowledge of it, as saying that...
Okay,
Musk...
so, you know, look, I have a lot of love for people who have, like, really bad addiction problems. I was one of those people, which is what authorizes me to say what I'm about to say. If Elon Musk is doing Kevin every day, it would actually explain the way that he's, like... the way that he has no inhibitions in terms of his public persona. That it would actually make sense why he posts all this like really cringy stuff and doesn't think too much about it. Look, if ketamine is good for one thing, it's good for depression, it's good for anxiety. It's actually like a legitimate way to treat you know, that kind of stuff. It's not a solution, but it's certainly like a treatment that capitalism has realized. Oh, actually, this is a really good drug that you know, it can make you less upset. It can make you less depressed. You know, it puts you into this very like comfy dissociative reality where you don't really have to like think about much. But that actually is like, oh yeah, no, if he's like taking that all the time, that makes sense as to why he's like posting all this embarrassing stuff and he doesn't care about it. He's like lost all semblance of like, you know, any kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? How people see him. He doesn't care like what people are saying about him kind of thing. And not just ketamine use, because ketamine users still actually like, you know, have social, I guess, boundaries and shit like that. Like it doesn't dictate all that kind of stuff. But I think using a lot of ketamine coupled with being absolutely unaccountable to anybody explains quite a lot. It explains quite a lot. There you go.
Has used LSD, cocaine, ecstasy, and psychedelic mushrooms, often at parties, private parties around the world. An attorney for Musk told the Journal that Mr. Musk is regularly and randomly tested at SpaceX and has never failed a test. The Journal report says board member.
Okay, why would he be regularly tested? That doesn't make any sense. There's nothing that says anywhere in the world that says like, actually, you know, we need to be testing CEOs for drug use all the time. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't exist.
Tesla have spoken to each other about their concerns, but haven't said anything formal that would end up in meeting minutes. But among the concerns, you might think, well, it's private, right? Well, if it's illegal drug use could violate federal contracts and would also break companies.
Yeah, is he applying for government assistance? Like, what's going on?
You know,
well, you know, SpaceX definitely gets a lot of government assistance, right? So there you go.
He'd have an opportunity to do all this in college, like most of us. I don't see why he would still.
When I first heard it, I thought, what drugs are still illegal? You walk down the street in New York City and you get a contact high anywhere you go. I can understand the key man theory. Because these companies, both SpaceX and Tesla, are entirely dependent on Elon Musk still being there. Even Ron Barron has told us that, one of his most fervent defenders, a huge long-term bullish.
Hey, Middle-earth Marxist, yes, Special K for breakfast.
You know, we'll see.
He's 50-something. He's in his mid.
Just give me a sec. I just got to let Lena in. Okay, I'm back.
50s. I think he's 52 or 53.
Still dabbling a bit in the. You know, the psychedelic drugs are. There's a big.
Well, ketamine is the one that Matthew.
Hey, Nucleus Slayer, what's going on?
For trying to get off of something else, among other things.
SpaceX says bring your Elon to work day is a great time to have him tested. Wait, what?
I guess if in college you skip that period, you know, people want to. Well, I mean, you know, some people think it's mind. Remember Timothy? You don't remember, probably.
No,
Timothy Leary was a huge advocate of the mind-expanding properties.
And there's a huge portion in Silicon Valley that thinks, a portion of people that think the same thing. That think if you very lightly experiment with some of these psychedelic drugs, it actually opens your mind to the possibility for additional creative uses. I've never tried any of them, but.
I'm not going to weigh in. Okay.
You sit silently.
I got kids. No, I said it wasn't.
I'm not gonna weigh in. I've got kids. That's really embarrassing. Yeah, listening to these two talk about drugs is like, it's like listening to aliens talk about how humans eat food. Like they just don't understand it. They just don't get it. Like,
you know, college was, you're gonna experiment. It seemed like you get beyond it by the time you're 50, but maybe not. You know, to each his own. But it isn't a private matter. It's a
publicly held company.
I'm so you know what this is though, don't you? This is the result of fucking like news executives saying like, right, we need to run a story on Elon Musk. He's doing drugs. His executives, his board are worried about it. Yeah, his board is worried about it. So we need to talk about it. And I know you two don't have a lot of experience in drugs or reporting on drugs or anything like that. You're business correspondents. But it's time. You've got to do it. And so they had to run like a 3-minute. Just go for 3 minutes. Just say whatever you want for 3 minutes. And that's what's happening. You know? The intrusive thoughts after hearing he was constantly tested made me think of the line from Portal. Oh, I don't know that game, actually. I've never played that game, so yeah. There you go.
Right.
And
Emperor Business surely wears clothes.
All right, well, far out.
Yeah. You're over 30, you just don't get it.
You're over 30, you just don't get it. I'm over 30 and I just don't get you. I just don't get you. Like,
don't trust, what was it, anybody over 30? Don't trust anybody over 30.
Yeah, or if you remember the 60s or 70s, you weren't there.
What is happening? What is happening? What is that? This makes absolutely zero sense. It's the worst thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. Oh, God. Anyway, chat, there you go. You know, She's having to deflect because of some sort of weird you can't talk as if you've done drugs rule. Oh, yeah, definitely. That's definitely what it was. It was definitely like, you're not allowed to talk about drugs if you've done them. But you can talk about drugs as if you've not done them. Forced avoidance. Oh, she's been even further from drugs than I have, yeah. It's actually crazy to me. It's actually crazy to me that there are some people who've not done drugs. It's crazy. Genuinely. When they try and make jokes when it's not on the prompter. Yeah, no, that's... They're trying to, like, wax lyrical about something that they've just got no experience in. Or they have got experience in and they're not allowed to say it. You know? Which is bizarre, because why should people be held to account for things that they've done in the past that don't harm anyone? It's just completely absurd. Yeah. So, there you go. Anyway. We're now going to talk about a very, very meaty bit. Don't worry, vegans, not actual meat. We're going to talk about a very, very, very meaty bit of news. On the stream. This is probably going to be like the main segment of the stream today. It's probably going to be on the thumbnail of the VOD, on the VOD channel. And we're going to be talking various different things about Alan Dershowitz and the ICJ case against Israel brought by South Africa. So we're going to be talking about a bunch of that stuff. And then when we've got through that, we're going to be checking out New Thought Slime. So you've got some candy coming after this. Don't you worry. Yeah, meaty like mushrooms are meaty. Just like it's got a lot of, you know, there's a lot to it, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of, it's dense. There's so yeah, we got some new Mildred today. We're going to be reacting to that. But let's take a little look and let's crack on. So this is what we're hitting. We're hitting the Zionists that have been on the Zionists that have been on the Epstein flight logs. There's a lot of them, but one of the main ones, yeah. One of the main ones is this guy. His name is Alan Dershowitz. If you don't know who Alan Dershowitz was, who he is, he's a famous lawyer, graduated from Harvard. He represented O.J. Simpson, I think, in his murder trial against his wife. Of course, like, O.J. won that case. I might be wrong. It might be the other way around. He might have been representing the family of his dead wife or the state. I can't remember, but I think he was representing OJ. I might be wrong. But this is Alan Dershowitz, and the only, I didn't know of him because of the OJ case, by the way. I actually knew of him because of a particular interview that Norman Finkelstein has with him that we're going to be watching in a bit. So this is basically Israel's choice for representation. So they're going to be using, again, like, it's just so completely, whenever anything comes a cropper of Israel in how they, like, you know, are operating, if there's any, like, sort of, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like criticism against them or anything like that, like, or anything bad is happening to them, they always go crawling to America, don't they? They go crawling to the USA because, of course, Israel is the satellite state of the USA in the Middle East. It's their fucking military base, essentially, in the Middle East, from which it can launch a bunch of different stuff. So Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu reportedly planned to employ American advocate Alan Dershowitz's skills to defend Tel Aviv in the International Court of Justice against the case of alleged genocide brought forth by South Africa. The advocate, famous for his notorious clientele, was Netanyahu's choice for the ICJ court next week. However, court documents that were unsealed in the sexual offender Jeffrey Epstein case on Wednesday names Alan Dershowitz as a sexual offender. Right? So content warning here for child sexual abuse, and of course the Islamophobia that comes with talking about Israel and its crimes against humanity in Palestine. So the court documentary says Epstein forced then minor Jane Doe to have sexual relations with former Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, a close friend of Epstein's and a well-known criminal defense attorney. So it's being alleged here that he is sexually assaulted a minor on Epstein's island in the Virgin Islands. I can't remember where it was. The Virgin Islands, the Caribbean islands or whatever. I don't know where the island was, but it was on a fucking island, innit? Epstein's island. So what is Alan Dershowitz famous for? Again, he's famous for the O.J. Simpson trial. He also wrote a book called The Case for Israel, in which he basically, did a response to common criticism of Israel. Now, the first thing that we're going to look at here, before we look at the International Court of Justice stuff, what we're going to do is we're going to watch some Big Amy. And we're going to react to this. It's Big Amy, Democracy Now!, 2003. This is ancient Democracy Now!. And it is Norman Finkelstein versus Alan Dershowitz. So if you don't know who Norman Finkelstein is, he's a prominent anti-Zionist Jewish scholar. He's kind of declined a little bit in recent years, talking about cancel culture. I made a joke on Blue Sky saying that like the way he goes on about cancel culture, they should call him Normal Finkelstein. Is this anything? It didn't get that many likes. Not that good of a joke. Fair enough. But anyway, here he is debating Alan Dershowitz on Democracy Now! In 2003, Vintage Amy, on his book, The Case for Israel. This is a classic thing, chat. So we're going to watch this. We're going to crack on. And hopefully we'll all enjoy it very much. Lots of points to pause at. I think my partner's just waiting to go out. So I'm just going to go say goodbye to her. Back in a tick.
From Pacifica Radio, this is Democracy Now!
I'm Alan Dershowitz, and in my new book, The Case for Israel, I try to make the progressive case for a two-state solution, and I insist that when the Palestinian leadership really wants a Palestinian state more than they want to see the end of the Jewish state of Israel, this century-long conflict, which could have been resolved long ago, will finally be resolved.
Hi, I'm Norm Finkelstein. I read Alan Dershowitz's book twice. I carefully checked the sources, and it's my impression that the book does raise serious questions about his academic integrity, his intellectual honesty, and raises serious questions about whether he's even qualified to teach at Harvard University.
Well, this
Today,
is
a debate on the case for Israel. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Bush returned to the United Nations yesterday for the first time since the U.S. invaded Iraq without UN backing. This time he called for international assistance in the reconstruction of Iraq and to defend Washington.
Wait, is she doing the news? Is she doing the big news? Okay, we don't need to see the news. We don't need to see the news. We want to see the what is it actually? Oh, here we go. It must be here. Okay, all right. So she doesn't do too much stuff. All right.
And the Arab satellite television stations Al Jazeera.
This is a preview for later this month because Norman is going to be at the ICJ also. Really? What do you wait? What in what? In what like capacity is he going to be at the International Court of Justice? Is he like a... He's providing supportive testimony for the South African case? That's so funny. Oh my god, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy.
And Al
Yeah, you know, we're going to have to fucking stream that live, chat. We're going to have to react to that shit live. It's going to be huge, you know?
Arabia from covering the council's news conferences and entering
That's
government
fucking
ministries
crazy.
for 2 weeks. The council said the stations had committed irresponsible activities that threaten the country's, quote, democracy.
It's like this Thursday, you know?
In other Iraq news,
the hearing, the initial hearing is like this Thursday.
Today, killing a 17-year-old and injuring at least one of his drivers in 51.
Okay, here we go. This is some old school guerrilla reporting from Palestine. Smashed watermelons and shit. Kids sifting through rubble to find their belongings. Like 2003, chat. You know, it's 2003. That footage. Like, nothing's changed. If anything, it's got worse. So bad.
Out of Nowhere by saxophonist Frank Lowe with drummer Philip Wilson. Frank Lowe died Friday at the age of 60 in New York. You are listening to Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A 15-year-old unarmed Palestinian boy was killed and 14 Palestinians wounded when Palestinian militants and Israeli forces clashed in the southern Gaza Strip today. 20 Israeli tanks and bulldozers entered the Rafah refugee camp shortly after midnight, after 5 mortar shells were
in the Rafah refugee camp. It's still happening in the same places. In the same places it was happening back then.
Were fired at a block of Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip. No injuries or damage was reported. Meanwhile, Israeli Foreign Minister Silvan Shalom is scheduled to meet U.S. National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice and Secretary of State General Colin Powell today to discuss the U.S. position
Condoleezza Rice,
the
man.
So-called security fence in the West Bank. Prior to the meetings, Shalom said during an interview on the fence that Israel should, quote, do everything to defend as many West Bank settlers as possible, and said the purpose of the fence is to...
It's just so funny, like, defend the West Bank settlers. Like, people who are moving into a place, displacing people who lived there originally, killing them in some cases, sexually assaulting them, you know, stealing their belongings, stealing their buildings, destroying their buildings, you know, their homes. And it's like, we must defend. We must defend them. You know, it's just so obvious, and it's just so disgusting and horrific that we like live in this delusional world where we're having to have these conversations framed in the way that Israel wants us to, you know?
Defend Israeli citizens.
I refuse to do it anymore.
Meanwhile, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz is reporting the Israeli government spends at least $560 million a year on subsidies, infrastructure, and education for 220,000 Jewish settlers living in the West Bank and Gaza. The figure does not include military spending in those areas. Haaretz says Israel has spent at least $10.1 billion on the settlement since capturing the West Bank and Gaza in 1967. Successive Israeli
$10 billion
governments have
in like 1967 to 2003 money.
Used to disclose
That's like
how
a
much
lot.
they spend on settlements.
A lot.
Haaretz says it compiled the figure after 3 months of research, including interviews with dozens of government officials and experts. And yesterday, President Bush told the 58th session of the United Nations General Assembly, quote, the Palestinian cause is betrayed by leaders who cling to power by feeding old hatreds and destroying the good work of others.
It's same shit. Same shit. It's all exactly the same. Like this is if you weren't already cemented in your views on what is going on in Gaza, what is going on in Palestine right now, this should confirm it for you, because it's just the same old arguments that they use again and again and again and again to justify the ethnic cleansing, the Nakba, everything.
This comes days after the UN voted 133-4 to condemn Israel's decision to, quote, remove Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. The United States, Israel, the Marshall Islands, and Micronesia voted against the measure.
Same people, Micronesia. What is it with fucking Micronesia, by the way? Same people. United States, Israel, Micronesia. I don't know what the Marshall Islands are. Like, I don't think that was like a recent thing. I don't think the Marshall Islands were doing anything in recent UN votes, but you know,
voted against the measure. Well, today we're going to have a very interesting debate on a new book called The Case for Israel. It's by Alan Dershowitz, who is one of the nation's foremost appellate lawyers, Felix Frankfurter Professor of Law at Harvard Law School. His articles are published in the New York Times and other publications. His books include Chutzpah, The Vanishing American Jew, Why Terrorism Works, Shouting Fire, and America Declares Independence. We're also joined by Professor Norman Finkelstein.
The U.S. claims it owns the Marshall Islands, but they also get to vote besides us. Right.
Reflections on the exploitation of Jewish suffering. His writings have appeared in prestigious journals like the London Review of Books, the Index on Censorship, the Journal of Palestine Studies, the New Left Review, the Christian Science Monitor, and others. He is also author of Image and Reality.
Oh, I've just realized that Micronesia... So... this is why Micronesia votes against it's not even like a nation state. It's like a collection of islands. So Micronesia now includes the Marshall Islands, Caroline Islands, and Mariana Islands, right, out in like the Pacific near Oceania. That's what we're seeing here. So it's like, so Micronesia, and the largest, it says here, it's a sub-region of Oceania consisting of 2,000 small islands in northwestern Pacific Ocean, has a close shared cultural history with three other island regions: Maritime Southeast Asia to the west, Polynesia to the east, and Melanesia to the south. Wider community of Austronesian peoples. It said the largest of which is Guam in the Google bit. And Guam, here we go. So Micronesia is a region in Oceania, 2,100 islands, the total land square of 2,700 kilometers squared, the largest of which is Guam, which covers 582 kilometers squared. The total ocean area within the perimeter of islands is 7 million kilometers squared. So it's a U.S. territory, innit? Like that's why it votes against. There's a difference between Micronesia and the Federated States of Micronesia. Oh, is there actually, Adam? Well, welcome to the stream anyway. Hi, One Who Reads as well. Good to see you. So, hang on a minute. So, Federated States of Micronesia. Country in Oceania. It just comes up as Micronesia. This is the Federated States of Micronesia. So this is the state that votes against. So it's this collection of islands that votes against. That's what I'm assuming. This is the flag, right? Peace, unity, liberty, Federated States of Micronesia. You know. So we got Yap, Chuk, Pohnpei, Kosrae, spread across the line northeast of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, south of Guam. Right, so actually south of Guam. Like, there's other islands in Micronesia that aren't part of the country. Right, okay, fair enough. But again, you know, it just sounds completely like this is going to be a colonized area. During World War I, it was captured by Japan. During World War II, a significant portion of the Japanese fleet was based in Truk Lagoon. Japanese support vessels following World War II is administered by the United States. There you go. Speaking of which, free Guam, free the Chamorro people. Yeah, free all the peoples of the Pacific. Yeah, fuck all the U.S. Army bases. Yeah, definitely. You know we're all about land back. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, this is what colonialism gets you. It gets you, like, an extra vote in the UN, which seems to, you know, it seems to validate the vote somehow, even though it's like a similar country. It's exactly like you were saying, Falk, about the Marshall Islands. You know, claiming that they own the Marshall Islands, claiming that they own Micronesia, but like actually like they get to vote beside them, right? You know, that's what it is. Anyway.
Of the Israel-Palestine conflict, his latest book is called The Holocaust Industry. Today, a debate. We're going to begin with Professor Alan Dershowitz. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you very much for having me.
And why don't we start with you laying out the thesis of your latest book, The Case for Israel?
Well, I wanted to write a progressive liberal case.
Like, just the way that it starts, like, you know, I think Amy's being, like, very charitable here and calling it a thesis. Yeah? Why don't you lay out the thesis for your new book? Okay.
For the two-state solution, and the two-state solution, which I think that most Israelis favor and have favored for a long time. I dedicate the book to...
And he's calling it like a progressive liberal view.
Professor Aaron Barak, who is the president of the Israeli Supreme Court, and for a reason, because I argue in the book that no country in history faced with comparable threats, both external and internal, has ever tried so hard to comply with the rule of law. I compare Israel favorably.
Oh my God! I can't wait for Norman to start, because it's like he's just everything that this man is gonna say is gonna wind you the fuck up. Yeah. So, you know, that's right. It's the DERSH. It's the DERSH.
The United States. In this regard, its courts intervene actively in support of Palestinian rights.
No, what are you talking about? What are you talking? He just lies.
Even during fighting in wartime, during the Jenin events.
You are talking shit, dude. You are talking shit.
Military from engaging in certain actions which, in its view, violated the rule of law. The Israeli Supreme Court has banned the kind of rough interrogation techniques that are now being employed by the United States in Guantanamo.
It doesn't stop them from doing it, though, dude.
Modern history that has never deliberately and explicitly retaliated against those who attack its civilian targets. For example, during
it has.
Six-Day War and the 1973 war and the 1948 war, its own residential areas were bombed by Egypt, by Syria, by Jordan. 1,600 shells lobbed into Western.
That is what a completely absurd thing to say. What a completely misguided, ahistorical, wrong thing to say. Confidently wrong about that. Oh, the Arab-Israeli war just like never happened, bro. It just like never happened. Like, what are you talking about?
Israel never bombed Amman or Damascus or Cairo. They have, of course, bombed areas of Beirut and in the process have killed innocent civilians. But there's an enormous difference between doing, for example, what the United States and England did in the Second World War, bombing Dresden or Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That is deliberately targeting civilians and going after the way the United States did in Iraq, which
so incredibly like also like looking at this in a historical way with contemporary analysis and knowledge of what's going on right now. Yeah, we're now looking at like, okay, so what's happening right now is we're getting actual real-time contradictions to what this man is saying here, and also consequences of what this man is trying to promote here. Do you know what I mean? Like, he has taken part in the manufacturing of consent to genocide Palestinian people in Gaza, in the West Bank. Yeah? And he's responsible. He's partially responsible for those people dying. Absolutely. He's like saying like, oh, Israel, they're not so bad. Like, they're not doing that much stuff. They're not as bad as the United States or England. You know, like, you just got to look at all that stuff. Like, I'm a progressive liberal.
I am very critical, but nonetheless, what the United States
can't believe Jeffrey Epstein's good friend would say such things.
They're going to kill civilians in the process. And so myself, I oppose the settlements. I've always opposed the settlements. Since 1967, I've opposed the occupation. I think Israel made, in my view, a terrible mistake in 1967. What it should have done is it should have made border adjustments pursuant to UN Resolution 242, which I actually consulted with Justice Goldberg. He was the ambassador to the UN and was involved in the process of that 242 resolution, which presupposed some territorial adjustments. The problem is Israel should never have occupied people. Land is different from people.
I just can't.
And today, I think unilaterally, what it ought to do eventually,
if it can't
find a peace partner, is to make some unilateral changes.
Okay, bro. What about the people on that land, though? What about the people on that land? What was he talking about? He's talking about, like, should never have occupied people. You're occupying land that people... Yes, where do people go when you kick them off the land? Completely insane. How is this man ever treated as any kind of public intellectual?
End the settlements. In fact, my peace proposal is that Israel would have a schedule for ending the settlements. That is a schedule for saying on so-and-so day the settlement ends, conditioned on best efforts by the Palestinians to end terrorism. That would create an
conditioned on the best efforts of Palestinians to end terrorism. What you're saying is conditions on the Palestinians to end resistance. That's what they're saying.
Incentive.
That's what he's saying.
To ending terrorist acts. By the way, you never condition anything on the end of terrorism because that gives the terrorists a veto. What you condition it is on making good faith efforts. And if we can get Israel to end the settlements and the occupation and the Palestinian leadership to stop using
the original Family Guy to phase out homophobic jokes, literally.
As a tactic, I think finally something that could have happened in 1917, a two-state solution. In 1937, when the Peel Commission recommended a non-contiguous Jewish homeland and the Israelis accepted it and the Arabs rejected it. In 1947, when the UN allocated that portion of Palestine that had a majority of Jews in it to a Jewish state, and the portion of Palestine that had a Palestinian majority in it to an Arab state, we could have had a two-state solution. We could have had a two-state solution in 2000 and 2001 when Ehud Barak and President Clinton offered, to be sure, a non-contiguous state on 90-something% of the West Bank and 100% of the Gaza with its capital in Jerusalem with a $35 billion refugee package. And when Arafat responded by violence, instead of coming back to the table and saying, well, maybe we'll negotiate for a little bit more.
He's just missing so much. I genuinely just can't wait for Finkelstein to respond, because like he's missing out so many things on purpose. He's doing this on purpose. He's like not talking about the fact, he's talking about like Arafat responded with violence, right? Again, it's like it's very, very similar to what they say about Hamas now. Yeah, Arafat was in the PLO, you know, the Palestinian Liberation. I can't remember what the O stands for, but like the Palestinian Liberation Front, or maybe it was the PLF. I don't know. I'm not sure if it was the Popular Front. But like, you know, he was like, he was like, yeah. You know, like, look, we want liberation. Like, that's what we want. And, you know, did this peace deal, did the peace accords, and you know, Zionists and far right conservatives whipped up by you know, Zionist propaganda machines and you know, US-led, US-backed, you know, and funded organizations, just ended up like killing that one prime minister, I forget his name, who was involved in that, and then, you know, loads of Israeli settlers were just doing more violence, and, you know, the military was still carrying out attacks on Gaza, still carrying out attacks in the West Bank, you know?
So the two-state solution is inevitable. It's going to happen.
Oh, he responded with violence.
The question is how long it takes to happen. And my hope is that we can have a reasonable, serious debate about the future, about the rights and wrongs. I think there are rights and wrongs on both sides, but I'm nervous.
Both sides. I'm a progressive liberal. You know, Alan Dershowitz posits himself here as a progressive liberal, but he says there's bad things on both sides. So he's not a liberal, is he? He's not. Well, he is. He could be a liberal, centrist liberal, but he's not progressive in the slightest.
My debating partner in the beginning, what sounded like it was going to be simply an ad hominem attack on me as whether I'm qualified to teach at Harvard. I would hope we could elevate the discussion and keep it on the merits. I won't attack Mr. Finkelstein on his merits of his position. Let people read his book and judge for themselves. And if he would refrain from personal attacks on me and let people judge the book on its merits, I think we can move the ball forward and have a reasonable...
This is so fucking good. If you've ever seen this debate and you know what happens, it's so fucking funny that he says this particularly. He's like, please, let's not have any ad hominem attacks. I want you to read my book and judge the book on its merits, right? Incredible.
Serious debate. I think it'd be interesting to know where we agree, where we disagree, what facts we share in common, what facts we have different views on, and whether they're empirical and could be subjected to reasonable resolution, where we have moral disagreements. I really think that in the end, today you read the news about Israel, there's other good news. There's in the works, according to the New York Times, a prisoner exchange between Hezbollah and Israel, in which Israel would get back one person, a civilian who was captured
Again,
by
same
Hezbollah
stuff,
in exchange for
you know?
Israel giving back 400 or so prisoners. There's movement forward. Let's not destroy that movement forward by getting involved in meaningless ad hominem discussion. Let's see if we can elevate the debate.
Yeah, in
and
the works
see
for
if we
21
can
years or
really
so,
move
yeah.
forward to the two-state solution that I think virtually everybody in the world today wants.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, author of The Case for Israel. Norman Finkelstein, your response.
Well, I appreciate Alan Dershowitz's seriousness, at least in these remarks. I have no intention whatsoever of getting involved in an ad hominem debate with Mr. Dershowitz. I'm interested in the facts. I was asked to come in and discuss his new book. I went home, purchased one copy. In fact, I purchased 2 copies. I read the book very carefully. I did what someone serious does with a book. I read the text. I went through the footnotes. I went through it very carefully. And there's only one conclusion one can reach, having read the book. And this is a scholarly judgment. It's not an ad hominem attack. Mr. Dershowitz has concocted a fraud. In fact, Mr. Dershowitz has concocted a fraud which, amazingly, in large parts, he plagiarized from another fraud. Now, I found that pretty shocking. Found it shocking coming from a Harvard professor. I find it shocking coming from any professor.
Now, we have to cut off at one point. I just want to warn everybody here that, although I'm not a litigious person, when you make allegations of plagiarism, when you make allegations of plagiarism, that's a technical term
I agree.
Which has...
So he's trying to cut him off because he knows he's right. He's trying to cut him off and say, like, you better be prepared to back that up because, oh boy. And he's like, oh no, I am.
Legal implications.
I agree.
And, you know, I can't obviously sit quietly by and,
you shouldn't.
And accept an allegation
let's look at the evidence.
Of plagiarism. All right.
Let's look
not
at
a litigious guy, Epstein's lawyer.
Okay. Let's look at the evidence. In the first 2 chapters of your book, you extensively reproduce all of Joan Peters' pages in her book.
Joan Peters, not John Peters.
In 1984,
show me
I'm
one
going
sentence.
to show you.
Show me one sentence.
I am going
that
to show you.
Okay.
I think I made available the charts to you.
No, I have no. You've shown me nothing. Let's start with that. That's
okay.
a categorical lie.
Alan,
what you're hearing now on radio is that a claim that Mr. Finkelstein made available to me certain charts.
No,
that
I
is a categorical lie.
No. Okay, Mr. Dershowitz. I think you had about 5 minutes time. I wasn't looking at the clock. If we're going to have a civil debate, you're going to have to remain...
But it's not going to be a debate about me. Let me be very clear
I'm not debating you.
Okay.
I have no interest in you, Mr. Dershowitz. Right. None at all. I'm interested in the scholarship, and I'm interested in the facts, and I'm interested in your book.
It's just so fucking good because he's like, just read the book, judge the book on its merits, and the first thing that he does is he goes, you're a fraud. You plagiarized the book. You took the first 2 chapters and just completely reproduced Joan Peters' book on the same topic.
Now, in 1984, one Joan Peters published a book called From Time Immemorial. The book was universally recognized by serious scholars to be a fraud. Without wanting to toot my own horn, I'm widely recognized as the person who exposed the fraud. I know that book inside out. I read it at least 4 times, and I went through all 1,854 footnotes.
He knows it off by heart. He knows there's 854 footnotes in that fucking book because he's fucking read them all 4 times, you know?
Book, Mr. Dershowitz. I then came to chapter 1, footnotes 10, footnote 11, footnote 12, footnote 13, footnote 14, footnote 15, footnote 16. All of the quotes are from Joan Peters. They are so from Joan Peters that you have a long quote here from Mark Twain on pages 23 to 24. I turn to Joan Peters, page 159 to 60. The identical quote from Twain with the ellipses.
Is the Twain quote wrong?
With the ellipses.
Is the Twain
let
quote
me finish,
wrong?
sir.
No, but the key
with
is...
the ellipses in the same places. The identical quote from Twain with the ellipses in the same places.
Really,
Mr. Dershowitz?
What's your point? Is it a correct quote?
Let me finish, Mr.
What's your point, bro? His point is that you just copied her book. Like, that's what it is.
Is it a direct? Is it an accurate quote of Twain?
Like, you know, it's so funny looking at this in the lens of, you know, H Bomber Guy's recent video where he like called out all this different plagiarism that's going on YouTube at the minute, and it's like, you know, it's just shit that has been recreated again and again and again. I think the only thing that's missing from H Bomber Guy's video is like the material reasons as to why people do this. You know, like it's not because they're lazy or whatever. It's because there's an incentive. There's a capitalist incentive, isn't there, to just like churn out work and not actually look ethically at the reason why you should be doing things. Maybe he does look at that. I can't remember. It's a long video. But like, I know that like that is why people plagiarize, because it's easier to plagiarize. It requires less work, and that means that you can exploit others' work and therefore make a profit from it, etc. Right? But the same thing is happening, you know, back then. You know, Alan Dershowitz goes, I could get a lot of clout for making a book that supports Israel. You know, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to just like take a bunch of stuff from other people's books. It doesn't matter. No one's going to check. They're certainly not going to invite me to do a debate on a left-wing news program with someone who's like a vastly more intelligent scholar than I am, or like not even intelligent. I don't want to say intelligence, like a vastly more, what would you call it? He's more intricate and concise in his analysis, right?
Professor Dershowitz,
they're certainly not going to do that.
The way we can have a civilized discussion here is that each.
Hey, Luke, what's going on? Yeah, honest, thoughtful, rigorous. Yeah, those are the words.
You
Yeah.
have nearly a full-page quote from one William Young, a British consul from May 1839.
Is it an accurate
on page 8? I'm going to finish, sir. On page 18 of your book, I turn to Joan Peters, page 184, the identical quote with the ellipses. I'm holding it up for the camera. Perhaps they can see. This is the length of the quote.
Is it an accurate quote?
The ellipses in the identical place. Last point. I'm not going to go through.
So the ellipses are important because the ellipses are where abstracts of the quote are taken, and then there's an ellipses to imply that like, oh, the rest of the quote is missing, or I'm going to take another bit of a quote of that same quote and put it next to this, you know.
Chapter 2, where there are 29 plagiarisms from Joan Peters.
Wait. Let's be very clear. It is not plagiarism to quote Mark Twain correctly. That's not
except
plagiarism.
if you cite Mark Twain and not Joan Peters. I'm a professor, sir. I know what plagiarism is.
And plagiarism is? Well, let's hear your definition of plagiarism.
No, we're not going to get involved in that now.
So you're using a word and you're not going to tell us what you mean by it.
I'm going to give the documentation.
He thinks he's being so fucking smart. This is like lawyer shit behavior, right? When he has that like shit-eating grin on his fucking face when he's there going like, oh, you're using a word, you don't even know the meaning of it. Like, shut the fuck up, bro. Like, you're trying to reframe the argument. Like, it's not gonna fucking work here. You're having an intellectual debate on a fucking left-wing news show. You know what I mean?
You know what? We'll let everybody else decide for themselves. Because the documentation... One last example. And I want to make it very clear. In Joan Peters' book, From Time Immemorial, she coins a phrase. The phrase is turn speak. And she said,
no, she borrows it from. She borrows it from. Who is it?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Husker. Yeah, Dersh likes getting caught and getting away with it.
She coins the phrase. You see, you don't know what you're talking about, and that's pretty terrible. She coined the phrase "turn speak," and she says she's using it as a play off of George Orwell, which, as all listeners know, used the phrase "newspeak," and she coined her own phrase. Turn speak. You go to Mr. Dershowitz's book, he got so confused in his massive borrowings from Joan Peters that on 2 occasions, I'll cite them for those who have a copy of the book, on page 57 and on page 153, he uses the phrase, quote, George Orwell's Turnspeak. Turnspeak is not Orwell, Mr. Dershowitz. You're the Felix Frankfurter Chair at Harvard.
Yes.
You must know that Orwell would never use such a clunky phrase as turnspeak.
I like it. I think it's a very elegant phrase.
Maybe you like it, and
I do.
evidently Joan Peters liked it. But George Orwell never heard of it, to the best of my knowledge.
We have to break for stations. Just one sec. Just one sec. We have to wait. Just one sec.
Fine.
We have to break for stations to identify themselves. There's 60 seconds, and when we come back, Professor Dershowitz can respond.
So good.
We're talking to Professor Alan Dershowitz. He's author of a
so
new book.
fucking
It's
good.
called
I love this
The
shit
Case for
so
Israel,
much.
In debate with Norman Finkelstein among his books.
This is only like, I think they've only been like talking for like 10 minutes so far, 13 minutes or so. It's just fucking great. So like we had like him speak for like 5 minutes, and then Norman Finkelstein just like getting interrupted all the time, you know?
The Holocaust industry and image and reality.
Again, I want you to like look at how you know, Alan Dershowitz, you know, what do we know about him now? He's a popular criminal defense attorney, famous for the O.J. Simpson trial. He's also famous for like other, you know, nefarious celebrity criminals. And, you know, he's now been outed as a pedophile. He's sexually assaulted minors on Epstein's Island. He's on Epstein Island's flight logs. And Israel, the country that is currently doing genocide and ethnic cleansing, you know, multiple war crimes over and over and over again. He's representing them in the International Court of Justice. Yeah. So, you know, looking at that, that's what we know of him. And the way that he is debating, by the way, you've got Norman Finkelstein, who, yes, has his problems, but also is an intellectual. And just, you know, very, very plainly says, you've done plagiarism, you've done fraud, and the plagiarism you've done is of another fraud. And here are the citations. I'm going to cite your book, right? So that everyone who's got a copy of this book can look at it and go, oh, yeah, he's done that there. And oh, yeah, he's done, like, the bit where he says, like, Mr. Dershowitz got so confused that he said George Orwell's Turnspeak is just fucking so good. But anyway, in response to that, Alan Dershowitz, what he's done is he's tried to, you know, go over, like talk over him, like go, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not even using the right word. But he's doing sophistry. He's doing sophistry in order to like try and win the debate. He's talking over people. Yeah. And that is actually he's being the classic proto debate pervert, isn't he? That's what he's doing. And he is a pervert, isn't he? Because he was on Epstein's flight logs. So there you go. Murphy, how are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Everybody, please go follow Murphy. They're amazing. It's good to see you. How are you doing? Welcome in.
Of the Israel-Palestine conflict. You're listening to Democracy Now! Stay with us.
Look at the charts.
He's just saying, he's literally just saying, look at the charts. Look at the charts. Yeah, this man helped pioneer debate pervertery, yeah. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So I think they're just doing like a minute thing, like a minute break. Here we go, we're back.
From the late Frank Lowe, here on Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report, as we continue our debate.
Thank you for the follow.
Alan Dershowitz's new book. It's called The Case for Israel. Alan Dershowitz is professor of law.
Yeah, we know all this.
Podcast industry.
It's a frivolous charge, of course. What happened was this. Of course, I read the Peters book. Anybody writing a book on the Middle East would. I also read a book called The Myths and Facts, which is a book put out originally by AIPAC and then published separately and independently, and probably 30 or 40...
Oh, my man is saying that he... So AIPAC, if you don't know, it's like, what is it? American Israel Public Affairs Committee, right? So That's what it is. You might have heard the term AIPAC flying around recently over the modern discourse, but AIPAC is like a huge Israel lobby. Yeah? It says the AIPAC is a bipartisan pro-Israel political action committee. They're a lobby. They're a lobbying group. They give a lot of money to politicians to make apologies for Israel's war crimes, etc. Yeah? So, in terms of, he's talking about a book that was published by AIPAC, an actual pro-Israel, so he's talking about a biased book from an incredibly biased organization. You know, yeah, his defense is I read too much. Yeah, I just read too much stuff. And, you know, and now he's like, oh, they published it separately and independently, 30 or 40 different copies or whatever.
Books which use the same quotes. They're very extensively used quotes by Mark Twain, because Mark Twain traveled to Palestine. Mark Twain's a very prominent American writer, and what he saw in Palestine is very relevant to the debate. He saw barren lands. He didn't see a Palestinian community. He saw...
Oh no, did Mark Twain not see Palestinian community? Well, that sounds like that's Mark Twain's problem, and that's something that you shouldn't be drawing on as an experience of Palestinian community. Actually, what you should listen to is Palestinian voices about what their community is and has always been.
Empty roads, and he writes extremely vividly. And
oh, there was empty roads. There were just no cars. There's no cars there at all. Like, they need more cars. It's not American enough, you see.
And a scholar is entitled to read a book, as I did of Peter's book, and to find quotes in the book and check them against the original quotes and find them to be accurate, and then do what I did. I don't know whether or not Mr. Finkelstein read footnote 31 that appears on page 246, which says...
He's like, of course I did. He can't stand being accused of not reading footnotes.
The research of French cartographer Vital Kuntz are relied on for the conclusions. So,
what did he just say?
Kuntz are relied on for the conclusions.
Queen. So hang on a minute. Who's that? Vital Kinway? Is he right? I don't know I don't know who he's referring to. But it's so funny that if he's like pronouncing French people's names wrong.
I'm sorry.
No, you misspelled it.
And then I say,
you misspelled it.
Joan Peters from Time Immemorial, Chicago, etc. And then I say Peters' conclusions and data have been challenged.
Yeah, some famous white guy with no expertise on the matter said it. So it's definitely true.
Hutchins. I do not in any way rely on them in this book. In other words, what I did, and it's very common for scholars to do that, is I read her books, I read Mr. Finkelstein's criticism of them, and I came away with enough doubt about the conclusions that, although I don't regard the Peters book in any way as a fraud, I think it was a well-intentioned effort to recreate and the very difficult to recreate events that existed in 1890 and 1900. So
it's so incredible that what he's doing, thank you for the follow, what he's doing here is he's trying to like denounce the idea that Joan Peters, the person that he plagiarized so much, was a fraud, so that he doesn't appear to be a fraud as well. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to be like, no, she's not a fraud. She did her best. Oh, she did her best. Like, you can do your best and still be not telling the truth. Like, very, very regrettable that Joan Peters did not have the education that led her to make a lot of stuff up about, situation in Palestine, Israel, just in Palestine in general, and very regrettable that was the case, but also actually, like, it doesn't change the fact that it was all made up and not true. Hey Panda, welcome to the stream. Welcome.
Find her quotes, which have been, as I said, used extensively by Facts and Myths and other publications, to be quite compelling. And she led me. I mean, I don't purport this book and none of my writing I don't purport to be an independent historian who goes back to the Middle East and reads original documents. I'm making a case. I'm doing what a lawyer would do. And
oh, so you're being a scummy, shitty piece of shit criminal defense attorney, are you? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, you like my man literally thinks saying like I'm doing what a lawyer would do is a good thing to say. That's a great like a great statement to make, you know?
What lawyers do is they find sources, they check the sources. I had a research staff that...
Yeah, he's also arguing it's okay because tons of propagandists in his industry do the same thing, yeah. Slipping Jimmy at it again, right.
Obviously check the sources. I haven't heard a word from Mr. Finkelstein suggesting that the quote from Mark Twain is not an accurate quote. Now, if
APAC also making the same slip up is not a better look for him, literally.
Mark Twain, and it hadn't existed. Mark Twain had never written it. And then somebody borrowed the quote without going to check back on whether Mark Twain had said that. Obviously, that would be a serious charge. I've done nothing like that. The vast majority of my book deals with current situations.
Panda says, I do think criminal defense lawyers are necessary in society. If there aren't people to represent the unjust, there won't be people to defend the just. Yeah, cool, but we're abolitionists over here, so, you know, we don't want any kind of lawyers or law structure or anything like that. But I do understand what you mean, and yeah, pragmatically, yeah, at the moment, yeah, a necessary thing, yeah.
Situations. In fact, I start my book by saying there has to be a statute of limitations on grievances.
But, you know, the kind of people that Alan Dershowitz has represented are definitely horrible. Like, he's going to represent Israel, you know? So,
I don't...
he's also sexually assaulted a child, so
base the case.
That's the kind of person that he is.
Israel on the fact that Jews lived in Palestine before the birth of Jesus, or the fact that Jews were expelled from what is now Israel in 72 AD. And I argue that Palestinians can't really make the case against a two-state solution based on historic claims that go back 100 years. But in the first couple of chapters, which are quite brief, I recount, never purporting to be creative or original in the recounting, I recount what has been accepted as the traditional history, and that traditional history includes the fact that the land, particularly what is now what would be Western Palestine, what was the part of Palestine allocated to Israel in the 1947 division, was land that before the Jews got there in the first Aliyah, but 1880-something, and the second Aliyah in the beginning of the 20th century, was land that was coming into disuse. Now, these are controversial, by the way. There are some Palestinians who say you shouldn't trust Mark Twain. There are some Palestinians who say you shouldn't trust the various English travelers. Reasonable people could disagree about...
Yes, I also agree with the Palestinians there.
Those sources, I lay them out there for people.
You know, anyone who was listening to this at the time, like, I genuinely, like, I can't get my head around people who would say, like, because what you have to think about, here's how this is framed, yeah? This man made a book saying it's called The Case for Israel, yeah? So what he's doing is he's trying to justify ethnic cleansing and colonial settler shit, yeah, imperialism, in order to, you know, basically like what the Palestinians do not want. And then he's saying like, oh yeah, you know, like there are some Palestinians that say you shouldn't trust Mark Twain and English travelers and stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, none of us should trust those people. We should trust the Palestinians who live there and have lived there historically. Like, it's just literally Hitler's breathing room argument. Yeah, literally. Like, yeah, all this land that was coming into disuse. Like, sorry, but you don't get to make a judgment about that. What about the vast swaths of land in the US that are not being used? Can you not make a state for Jewish people there? Like, do you know what I mean? Obviously, that would be, like, completely insane because that would be, like, colonizing an already colonized land, right? But you know what I mean? It's like there are loads of places like that all over the world. And again, like, you know, calling it like land that's falling into disuse, completely anti-environmentalist in any shape or form. It's anti-indigenous, it's anti-environmentalist in the, you know, at the very heart of it. Just because land is fallow when you visit it doesn't mean it stays that way all the year round. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
To read so that they can...
Utah too, this time the real Israelis, yeah.
Israel was established on the basis of colonialism. I make the following argument, which I'd love to hear Mr. Finkelstein rebut. You can't be a colonialist country unless another country sent people there as soldiers to take over that country.
They literally did! The British literally did that. What are you talking about? What are you fucking talking about?
For example, France sent its settlers to Algeria. England sent its settlers to
Palestine!
India. Dutch and other countries sent their settlers to parts of...
He's like, oh, they only did one country each. They only did one country each. You know? I love how, like, he talks about the Dutch, and he says, the Dutch, and other countries. He immediately goes, oh, I shouldn't talk about the Dutch. Oh, yeah, Africa. Oh, other countries, other parts of Africa. Blah, blah. Let's not talk about the Dutch. Let's not talk about the Dutch, you know?
Africa with guns to take over. What did...
Wow.
The Jews do during the first Aliyah and the second Aliyah?
Like, I love how he's like, what did the Jews do? It's like, no. You don't understand. Like, it's always that framing of the Jews. It's like, no, Zionist militias, radicalized Zionist militias. There were already Jews there. You know? Yeah, the classic, oh, they weren't using the land right. Right, exactly. This is why the argument is so stupid. So completely absurd.
From countries that were persecuting them. They escaped from Russia. They escaped from Poland. They escaped from Lithuania. They didn't come at the request of those countries. If you claim people were colonialists, you have to say on whose behalf they were working. The Jews who came there weren't working on behalf of Russia. They weren't working on behalf of Poland. They weren't working on Lithuania.
They were working on the behalf of the United States and England.
American Jews came as refugees to America. The ones who went to Palestine went with rakes and hoes to try to build land, to try to join collectively with the local population.
No, dude, they went with guns, and they were given more guns and more weapons, munitions, artillery by the British, and then subsequently by the Americans when the, Arab-Israeli war started.
They did, in fact, improve the land. As the result of work projects in Western Palestine, many Arabs from Eastern Palestine moved there. I cite statistics. Peter cites the same statistics, in fact, showing that in various kibbutzim, Rishon.
I love how he's like, oh, I cite statistics, the same ones that Joan Peters cites. Yeah, the person who's like widely known as a fraud.
Zion and others, the fact that 100, I don't remember the exact numbers, Jews moved there, attracted 300 or 400. You may disagree with it, but those are the data that I presented, and we can reasonably disagree with that.
Okay.
Now, I just want to make one point about Mr. Finkelstein's research. Well, I don't want to get ad hominem. I don't want to get into this debate, but for example,
my man's in a debate, and he says, I don't want to get into this debate. There is a website, by the way, that you can check out this stuff about no, sorry, this is a hang on, Middle East rights and uses JSTOR. I don't know what JSTOR is. Oh, it's like a thing where you can like look at like articles, scholarly articles. But Norman Finkelstein wrote a Jim Paul or someone else did an interview with Norman Finkelstein in 1985 in New York, when he was working at Princeton University, talking about the fraud of Joan Peters' book, and you can read it. It's like at this link here that I'm gonna put in the chat. And he's saying, like, I was nearing the end of my doctoral research at Princeton on the theory of Zionism when the book appeared. The publisher claimed that I was going to recast the entire debate on the origins of the Middle Eastern crisis. I couldn't resist that blurb. On first reading, I found it difficult to follow the central argument, but its importance seemed undeniable. Peters claimed to have proven that Palestine was completely empty on the eve of Zionist colonization, and that the so-called Palestinian refugees were actually recent immigrants from surrounding countries and other parts of Palestine. Given the credentials of the many authorities who'd lent their names to Peters' findings, including Philip Hauser, former director of the U.S. Census, I decided to reread the book, this time paying close attention to the way in which the demographic argument was constructed. The matter of population movements within Palestine relied not at all on documentary evidence, but rather on a demographic study. The charts were included in the back of the book. I spent several days scrutinizing the evidence. Late one night, I discovered that behind the virtually impenetrable prose and chaotic arrangement of data, Peters had concocted a hoax. The demographic study was a fake. So he's talking about, like, Alan Dershowitz is talking about the Joan Peters statistics, right, that she quoted that were fake, and I think Finkelstein is going to respond to this now.
You quote Mr. Finkelstein at one point, I think only once in the book, and that is he makes an argument.
He's like smirking, like, look, because he knows. He's smirking because he knows all the holes in this fucking argument straight away.
Edward Said's collection, that to judge the 1947 partition, the only fair way to do it is to look at either all of Palestine, which I don't know whether he means to include what became Jordan, Transjordan, or not, or you have to look at what became of Israel after the 1948 war. I disagree with that. What I say, respectfully, in the book, is that when you look at the fairness of the 1947 petition, you only look at the land that was allocated to the state of Israel. And in that land, Jews were clearly a majority, according to the UN census. To be sure, once the Arab nations attacked Israel, once the Palestinians attacked Israel, there was a war, and Israel secured more land, which was regularized by a ceasefire in 1949. What Mr. Finkelstein does is he counts that land and says, aha, look at how much they got, and look at the proportion of Jews and Palestinians. That's not the correct demographic to look at. So, you know, we can have reasonable arguments
let's get
about
a response
this, but
to that
let's stay away from the ad hominems and get to the merits of the case.
By the way, Norman's done no ad hominems at this point, yeah? Transjordan, yeah. I know a few Transjordans. I saw one at the Sparkle Weekender performing.
Professor Dershowitz, I'm not a professor.
That's not even a joke. That's true.
You seem to resent that a lot.
But I do teach elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when we discuss issues like falsifying information, plagiarizing, lifting whole cloth from other books, I've never heard that called ad hominem. For a serious scholar and a serious academic, those are very fundamental issues.
But when they're false, they're ad hominem.
Okay, no, if they're false, then you dispute them.
That's what
But to characterize them as ad hominem seems really out of court for a professor.
No, they are ad hominem. You're attacking. You said I don't deserve to teach at Harvard. That sounds pretty ad hominem to me.
Professor Dershowitz, you raised that issue. I'll try to address it, and then we're returning to the substantive issues of your book.
First, tell me why I shouldn't be teaching
I'm going
at
to
Harvard.
refer to that.
Okay.
On page 207 of your book, you say that to deliberately misinform, miseducate, and misdirect students is a particularly nasty form of educational malpractice.
Of which I accuse
Now,
Noam Chomsky
I consider what you have done in the book to be a paradigmatic, a quintessential example of misinforming, miseducating, and misdirecting.
So, like, it's so incredibly laughable. The whole situation is laughable, but it's very apt, isn't it? In that Alan Dershowitz, who is purporting to make the case for Israel, who we know every accusation is an admission. When Israel says that Palestinians are using human shields, it's actually the other way around. Israel constantly uses human shields all the fucking time and blames Palestinians for killing civilians when it does it all the fucking time. Alan Dershowitz is doing the same thing. He's accusing Noam Chomsky and other scholars, other writers, other authors of misdirecting, misinforming, miseducating, students. But he's doing the same. He's doing that. He's accusing people of stuff that he's doing. And so he's learning from Israel. Like, Israel is doing this thing, or vice versa. I don't fucking know. I'm certain that Israel was doing this shit before these two had even heard of each other.
You go on. Allow me to finish.
Allow
me to finish, Mr. Dershowitz. I've been very respectful of your time. On page 213, you discuss the Holocaust fraud by Robert Faurisson. And you write, quote, "There was no extensive historical research," referring to his book.
That's right.
Instead, there was the fraudulent manufacturing of false anti-history.
That's right. And Chomsky wrote, as you know, an introduction to
Please don't bring in Mr. Chomsky. He can defend himself. We're talking about you and your book. It was the kind of deception, referring to Faurisson's book, now let me quote clearly, for which professors are rightly fired.
I stand by that,
Not
of course.
because their views are controversial, and let me underline this again, but because they are violating the most basic canons of historical scholarship.
Well, let me respond to that.
Now,
If you can compare me to Faurisson, if you can compare Faurisson made up a story that the Holocaust didn't occur.
Which guy is which? I don't know their names by face. This is Norman Finkelstein. Norman Finkelstein. I might be saying his name wrong. Norman Finkelstein. The other guy is Alan Dershowitz.
Referring to your standard, I have no interest in Faurisson now. I'm talking about your standard.
Absolutely.
To miseducate, misinform, and misdirect, to violate the standards of historical scholarship are grounds.
I think I'm saying Dershowitz's name wrong as well. I think it's Dershowitz, not Dershowitz. I'm used to Polish pronunciations, not American ones.
It's using your standard.
No, it's an ad hominem argument.
I'm going to interrupt here because I want to get to some of
the.
I want to get to some of the main points of your book.
Do that.
Also, we were intrigued on watching Scarborough Country when you debated Sam Husseini, the offer that you made. We want to just play it for a moment.
Please.
I'll tell you what, I will give $10,000 to the PLO in your name if you can find a historical fact in my book that you can prove to be false. I issue that challenge. I issue it to you. I issue it to the Palestinian Authority. I issue it to Noam Chomsky. I issue it to Edward Said. Every word in my book is accurate, and you can't just simply say it's false without documenting it. Tell me one thing in the book now that is false.
Okay, let's go to the book, The Case for Israel.
Can I just talk about that for 1 second?
Yes.
And let me tell you what he came up with. This is really fascinating if you show the rest of the clip. He came up, he said on television, I saw a photograph, or I remember, or said a videotape, of Israeli soldiers aiming their guns at that, whatever, 12-year-old boy who was caught in the crossfire and killed. And I actually upped the offer to $25,000 if he could produce a photograph or if he could produce proof that he had seen that. Why was I so confident? Because German television did a very thorough study of that one particular incident.
Oh, did German television do a very thorough study of that one incident? German television that is now, absolutely full of Israeli propaganda, grinning about that dead child image in his head. Just fucking disgusting.
Let's just spend 1 minute on that incident. What happened is when that child was killed in his father's arms, the nation of Israel went into almost universal mourning. It was as if they...
You are lying! You are lying! What are you fucking talking about, this motherfucker? It makes me so mad.
Sitting Shiva on one of their own children. A child had died, and it
Shut the fuck up, man. Yes, there were probably definitely progressive Israelis who were like, I can't believe that this is what our government is doing. I can't believe they lied to us. I'm fucking stuck here now. If I ever go to fucking America or wherever, or, you know, emigrate somewhere, I'm going to have to like, you know, pretend that I was never there and shit like that. I don't fucking know. Like, could you imagine what it's like to like realize like, oh my God, this is fucking shit. I'm sure that there were people like that. But if you want to talk about the broader, you know, the government, the Israeli Defense Force, like all the fucking radical right-wing extremist Israelis, like, no, they were fucking celebrating it. Like, they celebrate the death of every Palestinian child. Like, you are talking so much shit right now.
Israeli soldier might have shot him. When you contrast that to how Palestinians respond to a child dying in Israel from terrorism, dancing in the streets, it's a very striking comparison. Then
he just has to move to that like scary brown person argument. He does it all the time. This guy made like Cat Girl Steph. Oh, I thought it was going to be a text-to-speech thing. Thank you so much for the £5. Thank you for subbing off Twitch. Thank you for supporting the stream. Really appreciate you. This guy profited so much off the idea of scary, radical Islamic extremists in the desert, right? Because this is 2003, so this is 2 years after 9/11. You can see that, you know, at the start of the program, Amy was actually talking about how, you know, there was a bunch of stuff going on in Iraq. There was a bunch of stuff going on in Iran and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's, you know, this guy was basically running on the coattails of all the Islamophobia that, like, was ramped up in America back then.
And German television did a study, and they found out that the Israeli soldiers were positioned.
Yeah, who's dancing at the street at 10,000 murdered kids, Alan? Yeah,
impossible for the bullet from an Israeli soldier to have hit that Palestinian child, and it was virtually certain that the bullet had come from a Palestinian gun. In my view, that's not particularly relevant. When a child is caught in a crossfire, it's a tragic death resulting from the crossfire.
Again, like, you know, let's talk about like the issue of crossfire in every single sort of bit of information that you hear about Israel, Gaza, Palestine, West Bank. You know, October 7th. Oh, there were 1,500 Israelis killed. Oh, no, actually, it was 1,200. Oh, actually, half of them were military personnel who were killed by Palestinians. Oh, actually, like, some of the colonels just, like, locked themselves in basements and let all their men get killed, not giving them any direction because it's kind of like, you know, I don't know, they were scared or something, or they were told to do that, I don't know. And then, like, the more and more stuff that comes out, oh, well, a lot of these innocent kids were, like, accidentally killed in the crossfire. Oh, well, actually, like, some of these IDF people, they blew up a house where there were some hostages being held, even though they knew that there were hostages in there, even though that they had a white flag. It's just the same again and again and again, you know? We have the benefit of, like, broad, more common internet usage and content creation and left voices, liberationist voices nowadays. In 2003, you didn't really have that. You had, like, I don't know, Rage Against the Machine and, you know, some, like, talk radio shows, zines, you know, that was it, really.
Which bullet actually hit him was not relevant, but that was the answer that.
Oh, it's irrelevant. Is it? It's irrelevant.
Up with
Norman Finkelstein.
Well, first of all, I want to clarify the monetary issue. Is it now $25,000?
It's $25,000 on that issue.
Oh, just on that issue. In general,
right.
it's $10,000.
And let me be very clear what I said.
We heard it. We just saw it on the tape.
Let me be very clear.
I think it's clear.
I then made it very clear. I said afterward, a material, willful distortion of fact.
Professor Dershowitz, it's on tape. We just saw it.
But we're not talking.
It's so good. He knows what's coming. He knows what's coming. He doesn't want to let this man speak. He's literally just said, fucking caught him in 4K. I will pay $10,000 to, you know, If you could find one factual historical inaccuracy in my book, I'll pay $10,000 to the PLO. Right? He said it live on television. It's there. It's recorded. He acted emotionally, and there it is.
About a spelling mistake.
Oh no,
we're not talking about a minor mistake and a footnote. We're talking about a serious material, willful mistake, a fact that I deliberately engaged in.
Serious material facts.
Right.
Let's start. Number one, I'm going to first deal with just concrete facts which are not particularly controversial, which can easily be confirmed.
Hey DJ, how you doing? Hey, it's Rob Rousseau. Thank you so much for the raid, my friend. How is everybody doing? Please, if you haven't already, please go and follow Rob Rousseau. Absolutely incredible streamer. Thank you so much for the raid, dude. I hope you had a great time. Welcome everybody from Rob's stream. If you don't know me, my name is djmuel. I am a British leftist. I'm a housing activist. I'm bisexual. I'm an anarchist. I'm a communist. Whatever you want to fucking, I don't know what you want to talk about with doing labels. But yeah, no, I'm currently taking a look at, because obviously we have found out, I'm sure Tom has spoken about this, so if this has been repeated, I apologize. But it is very telling and very funny, isn't it, that Alan Dershowitz, the person who's representing Israel in the International Court of Justice in the upcoming trial at which South Africa has accused it of doing genocide, which I happen to agree with. I'm sure Rob does as well, and most of you from Rob's stream do also agree. Thank you for the follow there, by the way. Alan Dershowitz, representing Israel, is pedo, isn't he? He's found out to be a pedo on Epstein's island. Sexually assaulted a minor there, didn't he? So there you go. Epstein was a Mossad asset. Yeah, it appears to be the case, doesn't it? But what we're doing is we're watching a very classic interview from Democracy Now! It's not an interview, it's framed as a debate, but there's a lot of, back and forth going on here that's kind of like very sophist in its, I guess, form. Amy Goodman doing her absolute best, bless her, back in 2003, desperate to, actually talk about, what's going on. Let Norman Finkelstein say his shit. But here's Norman Finkelstein basically outing Alan Dershowitz as a fraud, making stuff up, having historical accuracies in his book. We're at the point in the debate now where Norman Finkelstein is about to point out historical inaccuracies in Alan Dershowitz's book, The Case for Israel, in which relating to a bet or like a promise that he made Edward Said on live television, that if he could find any historical inaccuracies in his book, he would donate $10,000 to the PLO, which was the prominent party in Palestine at the time. So there you go. That's that, isn't it? That's what we're gonna see right now. But welcome everybody. Let's just have a little look and see who's come in. Human Person on Earth, hello. Bonbon, C3PO, good to see you. Comrade Social Distancing, good to see you too. DJ Tom Hanks, welcome in. First time here. What else we got here? Timmy Komradsky, hello, welcome back. CCC Reese, how you doing? Kit Rat V, Why So Dankness. What do we got here? Katrina Kaiju, good to see you as well. My mum told me about an interaction she had with Alan Dershowitz once. She said he was a creep. Kid tested, mother approves. Approved. There you go.
On page 80 of your book, you write that according to Benny Morris, between April and June...
Benny Morris being an Israeli
historian. I have a copy of his book here, which I'll hold up.
Right.
2,000 to 3,000 Palestinians were made refugees during the second stage of the flight.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the book in front of you.
Yeah.
Page 256. Can you read what the sentence says?
Well, let me read you what I say in my book. In some areas, Arab commanders...
No, yeah, Panda, he is... okay, first thing, Panda, transsexual is a bit of, like, outdated term. So let's refrain from using that. It's transgender, actually. Norman Finkelstein is unfortunately like he's old. I don't know what's happened. Like he thinks that cancel culture is real and like transgender people did it to him somehow. He is actually like transphobic from what I've heard. So that is an unfortunate reality. But yeah, let's kind of refrain from saying transsexual. Yeah, bit odd.
I'm just reading in some. Let me put the context. Chomsky says that he says Morris does not believe that any Arab leaders told the Palestinians to leave. And I say, in some areas, I quote from Morris, in some areas, Arab commanders ordered the villagers to evacuate to clear the ground for military purposes to prevent surrender. More than half a dozen villages, etc., were abandoned during these months as a result of such orders. Elsewhere in East Jerusalem and in many villages around the country, the Arab commanders ordered women...
It's definitely a let them fight situation, yeah, for sure. For sure. The thing to take away from this, in particular, is not like, again, you know, we're leftists here, gang, right? So we should not be like going, oh, Norman Finkelstein is a great guy and we should support him and follow him, right? That's not like the thing to do. The thing to do here is listen to the analysis and the facts and the challenging and the, you know, the correction of the citations, etc.
Children to be sent away out of harm's way. Indeed, psychological preparation for the removal of the dependents had begun in 47-48, when the Arab High Command and the Arab League had periodically endorsed such a move in contemplating the future of Palestine. And I say, therefore, Chomsky is simply wrong when he says that there's no evidence. And he says, again, at another point, nobody today believes that any of the refugees were told to leave. And so I dispute that by quoting Morris himself.
You seem to have an obsession with Mr. Chomsky, but he's not here. Let's look at the next sentence.
I thought I was going to be Chomsky today.
Let's look at the next sentence, please, Mr. Dershowitz.
This is serious.
He's trying to like deflect. He's trying to deflect from this like obvious like, why do you keep bringing up Chomsky, bro? Like, I'm trying to talk about the inconsistencies in your book and the hypocritical nature of which you like write about them, and you know. It's just true, and Dershowitz is trying to like talk about this in like, oh, you know, I thought I was going to be debating Chomsky, that's why I'm talking about Chomsky so much. No, shut up, bro. Like, you're being dragged. You're literally being dragged.
I agree with you.
Read the next sentence. Morris estimates, in your book, I have it right in front of me, the next sentence.
Morris estimates that between 2,000 and 3,000 Arabs fled their homes during this phase of the Arab-initiated fighting.
Okay, can you please read what Mr. Morris wrote?
Well, no, you're talking about one...
Please read what he wrote.
If I have the whole book, I will find for you, if you want to take time...
Norm Finkelstein, can you, if you want the
3,000 people led during this phase.
Can you read the sentence?
Okay, I'm looking...
He's desperate for him to read it himself because he needs him to understand. It's like, you have lied, you have plagiarized, and you have lied, and I need you to take fucking ownership of it, bro. It's so funny.
At page 256.
And he can't do it. He simply can't do it.
Righteous Victims, a history of the Zionist-Arab conflict.
He's referring to phase 2 now, the same one as you. Go ahead.
And you're talking about right over here.
Altogether, yeah.
Altogether, about 200,000 to 300,000 Arabs fled their homes during the second stage of the Exodus.
Between 2 and 3.
So he's like he said, oh, well, I said this in my book, and he's literally got it wrong. He's literally just like changed the numbers. It's not even that he's like got it wrong. He's changed the numbers. You can see it, 2 and 300,000. And he's just decided to take the 100 out of there and put 1,000.
1,000 and 2 and 300,000. Now, you could check this many times, Mr. Dershowitz, but you're really going to have to pay the $10,000.
No.
I hope you allow me to earmark it for Janine. I would like to give it to Janine.
Let's be sure what the context is of this.
I know the context.
We're talking about a variety of
This is not the OJ trial. This is not the OJ.
He referenced the OJ trial. Does anyone know the history of Dershowitz with the OJ trial? Does anyone actually know that? That was pretty fucking good.
We're not going to play a game.
Well,
we're not playing a game now.
Is your point that you're citing that what you're saying, Norm Finkelstein, is in Alan Dershowitz's book, The Case for Israel? He says 2 to...
Yeah, I think he represented OJ, yeah.
100,000.
Your response to that,
I
Professor
argue
Dershowitz.
that 700,000 Arabs...
Don't change the
Thanks for the follow.
Changing the subject.
We're
I
talking
argue
about
that
phase 2, April through June.
700,000 Arabs.
Please don't play this game.
Obviously, the phrase 2 to 3,000 Arabs refers either to a sub-phase or is a type of graphical error.
This is why lawyers have a bad reputation. Because you're playing a game now. I've read the book twice. In fact,
do I ever dispute that 700? Do I ever dispute that hundreds of thousands
in
of
fact,
people
I've read
left?
the book 6 times because I read Joan Peters 4 times.
Absolutely fucking buried. Completely buried. This is so good. It's the best fucking shit I've ever seen in my life. He's like, I've read your book twice. Actually, no, I read it 6 times because I read the one that you copied it from 4 times.
You add the 4 times to Joan
Does
Peters.
she make this point? By the way,
it's 6 times.
Does she make this point? Of course she doesn't make this point. Now,
let's go to the other.
I'm going to interrupt because stations have to make their point, which is they have to identify. They have to identify themselves.
Okay, so I'm gonna use this opportunity to go to the toilet myself. Chat, take your meds, drink your water, have a stretch, use the bathroom yourself if you need to. You know, we've been sat here for a while, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to be back in a tick. Look after yourselves.
We'll come back, and if you can stay with us for the show, we will continue this discussion, and our next guest will ask him to wait, and we will do an interview after the program. I think this is too important. We're talking to Alan Dershowitz. His new book is called The Case for Israel. He is debating Norm Finkelstein, his books, The Holocaust Industry, and Image and Reality of the Israel-Palestine Conflict. Stay with us.
What's up, chat? Hey, Raven Payne, good to see you. Just got hit from a raid while I was lurking. I'm trans in Ohio. We talked about that yet? Oh, yeah, we have, yeah. But I'm sure you're very...
You are listening to Democracy Now! That's the late...
Very, very well acquainted with what's going on. Let's get some love for Raven Payne and any other trans peeps in the Ohio, in the state of Ohio, and any other awful Republican states.
Frank.
Let's see those love emotes in the chat.
Hello on saxophone. I'm Amy Goodman, and we're talking with Professor Alan Dershowitz. His new book is called The Case for Israel. Mario Cuomo writes on the back of it, Alan Dershowitz's detailed and penetrating analysis of the issues that fuel the continuing war in Israel should be read by everyone. Norman Finkelstein's book, The Holocaust Industry, has a recommendation on the back by Raoul Hilberg, who is the leading Holocaust historian in this country. And he says, when I read Finkelstein's book at the time of its appearance, I was in the middle of my own investigations. I came to the conclusion he was on the right track. I refer now to the part of the book that deals with the claims against Swiss banks, and I'm jumping ahead. He says, I am by no means the only one who in the coming months or years will totally agree with Finkelstein's breakthrough. Okay.
So let me focus on the 2,000 or 3,000. This is such an obvious point when you think about it.
What's the NED? Sorry, I prefer pre-NED funded Amy Goodman. What's the NED?
Second. What is the context that I'm arguing? I'm arguing that lots and lots of Arabs, in contradistinction to what Chomsky said, were told to leave by their Arab commanders. Obviously, it's in the interest of that argument to maximize the number who would leave. Only an idiot would deliberately minimize the number who's leave.
Only an idiot would minimize the number who would leave. Wow, interesting. National Endowment for Democracy, effectively a CIA cutout? No way.
From ad hominem and
no. I'm talking about myself.
Okay.
I'm talking about myself now.
Okay.
I would have been an idiot had I used 2,000 when the actual number was 200 to 300. If you wanted to make an accusation, you would say, instead of saying 200 to 300, he said 400,000 to 500,000. Remember the argument. The argument I'm making is that lots of the Palestinian refugees who left as the result of orders from their leaders during this period of time. So my incentive, if we take Mr. Finkelstein, would be to exaggerate the number. Now he accuses me of reducing the number by 100-fold. Obviously, there are only two possible explanations for that. But why would anyone make a factual error that would hurt their position?
Mr. Dershowitz, with all due respect, Mr. Dershowitz, with all due respect, I cannot understand for the life of me why someone with your reputation and with your accomplishments would cobble together a fraud. That, to me, is the most perplexing question.
Let me ask you a direct question.
Let me just say something. We only have 10 minutes. We want to go to content.
I do, but I want to ask one direct question. Am I right or am I wrong that it would serve the interest of my argument to overstate rather than to understate that figure?
There are no arguments in your book. Your book is a collection of fraud. Falsification,
let me give you the argument. Well, let me set out the argument. So this is an answer on the merits. Here's the argument.
I don't want to discuss
and we're going to close both mics here. We're closing both microphones, okay? We're going to go through this in a civilized way over the next 10 minutes. You have laid out a challenge, Professor Dershowitz, on Scarborough Country, the program on MSNBC. You said if anyone can find a factual error in the book, we're not talking spelling errors, that you will give $10,000. Sorry.
Yes, as I said, I'm prepared to do that. Now,
okay, now I'm going to interrupt.
Right.
This is a major challenge.
It is.
You've put it out on television. Norman Finkelstein, you have laid out one error. Whoever's interested.
No, I don't think Finkelstein was talking about accomplishments of getting rich people out of murder charges. I think he was talking about his academic accomplishments.
Served. Who's ever interested served. You did respond.
Which, to be fair, is a bit of a logical fallacy on Finkelstein's part anyway, because he's implying that just because someone's been through academia, and become a law school, Harvard Law School graduate, it gives them some kind of accolade, right?
No.
You said 2,000 to 3,000, quoting citing Benny Morris, the Israeli historian. In fact, he said 200,000 to 300,000 Arabs. Now,
and let me make the point that I do make an argument. Here's the argument I make. I make the argument that the issue is a complex one of the refugees, and that in fact many of the refugees of the 700,000.
But you're citing Benny Morris.
Oh, it's complicated, isn't it? It's always complicated.
He made a point that strengthens my argument.
But it's wrong in your book. Whether or not it strengthens, whether or not it serves your argument.
Let me be very clear. If you I do make an argument. My argument is a very serious one. My argument is that many of the Palestinians were told to leave by their commanders. If in fact 200,000 were told to leave instead of 2,000, that strengthens my argument considerably. That is an argument that I make. If the book says 2,000 to 3,000, there are only two explanations. Either it is a typographical error, or I have to check the book, obviously.
Yeah, I agree partially, E. Bridget. I'm not saying that colleges education is a bad thing. What I'm saying is academia as it presents itself in our white supremacist, cis heteronormative society is obviously biased, and you will have a much easier time getting through academia if you are white, cis, a man, heterosexual, and of course, with it being simpler for some people and not others, comes a large degree of corruption, right? That's basically what that amounts to. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I do agree that real world experience is extremely important, and I think that some of the people who go through college and get through it easy are probably averse to some of that real world experience due to their class, depending on what kind of class they're in, what kind of material conditions they they get. So yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Yeah,
I was referring to a smaller phase, but it would be ridiculous for anybody to understate when the purpose would be to overstate.
Okay,
This is the kind of era anybody
let's
could
leave
make
that
it
and
work.
go to another point.
What I'm going to do for the interest of time and trying to be respectful of Professor Dershowitz is I'll simply quote your statements in the book one after another slowly. And you can simply stop me and say, I can prove that or I have the evidence.
Sure.
Okay?
Great.
Simple. Page 206, you write, Israel is the only country in the Middle East to have abolished any kind of torture in fact as well as in law.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's
fact.
start with that
Right.
one.
Yeah.
The Israeli Center for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories has a website, and I follow it quite closely.
So do I.
I went to the website, and I checked under the heading for torture. I'll ask again Amy Goodman, rather than myself, to simply read the first sentence for the latest issue of B'Tselem, and if she wants to continue down.
So he's referring to B'Tselem, the Israeli human rights organization that does a lot of historically it's done a lot of advocating for Palestinians.
It's called B'Tselem, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the Occupied Territories.
Please keep in mind, he said, Mr. Dershowitz said, in fact as well as in law. Please.
The first headline, it says torture. Interrogation by torture and absolutely prohibited by Israeli and international law.
Right.
Despite this, Israeli security forces breached the prohibition and torture Palestinians during
Well, I don't
interrogation.
agree with that. I mean, we have a reasonable...
I don't agree with that. I love that. I love that. His first response to that, being greeted with the fact that, Israel breaks law, not just international law, but the Supreme Court laws of its own country, and he's like, I don't agree with it. Well, there's a fucking NGO that says that they're doing it, so what do you want? Yeah, it's not a fact I agree with, actually.
Dispute about that. What Israel does, and what Israel did until 1999, was what the United States is now doing in Guantanamo. That is...
Yeah, you can not agree with things that are happening, but it doesn't stop them from actually happening. It's just absurd.
Put people in uncomfortable shabak positions. They put hoods over their head, often foul-smelling hoods. They play loud music. There's a cover story in the Atlantic Monthly.
Hang on a minute. I kind of missed the start of what he was saying here. But he's saying that is literally what Israel does. He's literally saying what Israel does.
This month, which talks about rough interrogation techniques, and it describes what the United States is doing, and it says that Israel used to do that. Some possibility.
Oh, he's talking about the U.S. Right, so that makes it okay, because the U.S. does it, but Israel doesn't even do that. They used to do it, but they don't anymore. The only reason that he's feeling comfortable to say that they used to do it and they don't anymore is because he thinks that nobody does it because the Supreme Court in Israel says, oh, no, well, that's banned now, so we don't do that. To think in any kind of situation, in a fascist colonialist state, where the Supreme Court is made up of people appointed by the government that is, overwhelmingly fascist, in any way, to think that the Supreme Court is making decisions that would not be fascist. And that would not be supporting a fascist state.
But he continues to do it. That's simply not the kind of torture that international law prohibits. And in fact, my point is, in Jordan, torture is routine. In Egypt, it's routine.
Definitely.
The Israeli Supreme Court took an extraordinarily courageous decision in 1999. I commend everybody to read it. It's online, in which Justice Aaron Barak said that as a democracy, we must fight terrorism with one hand tied behind our back, but in the end, we have the upper hand.
Are you joking? I can't believe you just said that. I genuinely can't believe you just said that.
An extraordinarily courageous decision in
Israel took an extraordinarily courageous decision in 1999 to not torture anybody. Oh, it's so courageous of them, isn't it? To do the bare minimum of human rights. Oh, they were so courageous to do that. Shut the fuck up, bro! Shut up!
1999, I commend everybody to read it. It's online, in which Justice Aaron Barak said that as a democracy, we must fight terrorism with one hand tied behind our back, but in the end, we have the upper hand because we comply with the rule of law. Israel is to be commended for its attempt to regulate and control the torture of ticking bomb terrorists. I am
so
very...
you stand by your statement that they do not torture.
Without any question, and that the Supreme...
Yeah, but there's evidence, like, B'Tselem is not like, you know, an organization that's just gonna make this stuff up, right? It's just not gonna make this stuff up.
Court has abolished it, and if anybody were to engage...
Dancing around Lebanon, which is consistently the most progressive nation state in the Middle East, right?
And I am right, and you're wrong on this
6 minutes.
I am simply right, and
Less
you're
than
wrong
6
about
minutes
this.
to go.
I mean,
All right, let's stop.
Amnesty International, who I know you think is an untrustworthy source, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, they all reach the same conclusion.
And they're wrong.
Israel still continues to practice torture.
He's just like, they're wrong. They're wrong. These huge NGOs that have done work, they're on the ground in these places. You know, they're helping people. They're providing aid to these places. They're wrong. They're wrong. Well, why? To what end? To what end are they wrong? Like, you know, why are they doing this? Why would they lie? Why are they making this stuff up? Like, what is it serving? Like, he's trying to make out that they're some kind of, like, terrorist organization. He's just like, no, I disagree. I disagree with the facts, actually, you know?
Well, you can say they're wrong, but let's be clear.
Describe what Israel does.
Sir, I'm not going to debate what
what do you define as torture?
I'm not an expert in the topic.
You certainly are not, but yet you're making an accusation.
I don't make the...
I can't stand this man. I can't stand this man. Like, you know, like I used to watch this like periodically, maybe once every 2 or 3 years or something, yeah. And I used to like get so mad at him, like just the smugness and everything, but like the recent revelations that this guy is like a legitimate sex offender, child predator. He was on Epstein's island. My rage knows no bounds. Genuinely, like, this man is scum. He's a demon. He's a fucking piece of shit demon. Yeah, he's doing Darvo. Like, I mean, that's what Israel does all the time. Like, just does Darvo straight up. Hey, Rat Freak, how's it going? Yeah, you know, that's what it kind of... He's like, yeah, these NGOs are definitely, specifically targeting my book and my book sales.
Accusation, Mr. Dershowitz, you're confusing things. I go to the mainstream, respected human rights organizations, and I look at what they...
Keeps doing worse shit to resolve from the last bad shit he did, yeah.
International standards.
You have a number of points here.
Okay,
we have 5 minutes to go.
I need to respond to this.
You did respond.
No, I didn't respond to this.
No.
I need to respond to Amnesty.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Okay, Amnesty International. Amnesty International recently said that...
So he's like, Amnesty International, he's talking about Amnesty when Finkelstein quoted B'Tselem.
Aharon Barak should not receive an international prize because he doesn't believe in human rights. He is one of the greatest advocates of human rights. They also, Amnesty also on
Alan
its
Dershowitz,
website...
let me ask you a question. I'm going to interrupt for a second because you're on
right,
another point.
Right.
B'Tselem. You just think B'Tselem is wrong.
No, B'Tselem is wrong.
Okay, Norman Finkelstein, next
because
point.
Because they define torture in a way...
Yeah, that's right, Katrina, yeah.
We have 4 minutes to go.
Every single, like, this, it's so simple. It is so simple. What Katrina's put in the chat is just like, I think everybody knows this. Like, you know, I'm preaching to the choir. It's a bunch of leftists here, like... We're all communists, we're all anarchists, you know, at the very worst, we're like, you know, progressive liberals in this chat. But we all agree, yeah, that like, it is very, very, very obvious that everybody who defends Israel is just being fucking racist to Arabs. They're being fucking racist. You know what I mean? It's one of those. But yeah, Finkelstein isn't going to like attack him on this because he's not intersectional and won't rip someone just because they're racist. Yeah, well, he's like, you know, the thing that is respectable here in this like one sort of argument is how he's like just sticking to the academic nature of it, and how he's like, you know, a Harvard professor and he's just doing plagiarism. He's doing plagiarism. He's also getting facts wrong historically and contemporarily. So you know, I do admire that, fucking certainly. But I also agree that like it is actually like incredibly important to mention the fact that all this comes down to is a dehumanization of Arabs, a dehumanization of anyone who isn't white. That's what it comes down to.
4 minutes to the end of the program.
Number 2, you write on page 126, there is no evidence that Israeli soldiers deliberately killed even a single civilian in Jenin.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. Dershowitz, I looked carefully at your book. You don't like Amnesty International.
I'm a member
You
of
don't
it.
like.
I'm a member
I know,
of
but on
Amnesty
the question of
International.
Israel,
I'm a contributor
on the question
to
of
Amnesty
Israel,
International. I like Amnesty on Israel in many instances, but I disagree with some of its conclusions.
And you don't particularly like B'Tselem.
I do like B'Tselem. If I were an Israeli, I'd belong to B'Tselem. So don't characterize my views. You don't know my views.
I read your book, or the book you purport to have written.
Now you're claiming somebody else wrote it?
I hope so. For your sake, I truly hope you did not write that book.
I proudly wrote it.
I think the honorable thing for you to do would be to say, I didn't write the book. I had no time to read it. I'm sorry.
I wrote every word
that
of it.
would be the honorable thing.
I urge. I have my
you've made the point about Jenin and whether an Israeli soldier,
whether
deliberately shot a civilian.
Let's quote Human Rights Watch.
Yes.
They put out an.
Wait, he said I've even eaten Nutella. Did he say that? What's that in reference to? Does anyone know?
Now, Human Rights Watch, you nowhere in your book mention. Nowhere. Let's see what Human Rights Watch concluded on Jenin. Quote, there's prima facie evidence that Israel committed, quote, war crimes in Jenin.
Further, you're making a joke.
Quote,
okay, yeah.
And I want everyone to listen carefully. Many of the civilian killings documented by Human Rights Watch amounted to unlawful or willful killings by the IDF. Please listen to the words.
I'm listening to the words,
killings.
And I deal with this very directly in my book.
No worries, Prince. Thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourself, yeah?
Obviously documents multiple cases of willful killings by Israel. What did Mr. Dershowitz write? What did Mr. Dershowitz write? There is not a single case of you want to
not
know,
only not a single case in Jenin, but let me tell you why I make my point. I make my point because there is absolutely no incentive for the United States or for Israel or for any other democracy ever willfully to kill an innocent civilian. Every time an innocent civilian is killed, it hurts Israel. It hurts it domestically.
Allow me an
example. Hurts it. No. Let me finish my.
It doesn't though. Like this is the thing. He's literally, you know. Yeah, Dershowitz is right. There isn't a single case. There's many. There's many. Yeah, you know, like it's just so like annoying where he's like, oh no, Israel would never do that because it would harm its reputation. It's like, dude, it does it every day. It does it every day. It doesn't give a fuck about its reputation. Like, this is the thing. It's just like...
It hurts it internationally. Now, every country engaged in urban guerrilla warfare...
This is the classic argument of, like, why would I lie? Why would I lie? Why would I lie about something like this? Why would Israel commit war crimes? Every time it would do that, it would be really, really bad. And it's like, yes, but you're forgetting the fact that some people... and certainly states, which aren't people, they don't think, they don't have a brain, they're like a collective of people who decide they're going to do a thing collectively, and lots of people think very, very differently, don't they, about how to do things. So there you go.
Inadvertently kill civilians. But the very idea that an Israeli soldier who are trained in the idea of the holiness of arms, who get better training about avoiding civilians, who are punished for killing civilians.
Let Norman Finkelstein read a response. You're making the point that in general you wouldn't think they would.
Mr. Dershowitz gave a very lovely bar mitzvah speech. Now let's read what Mr.
What did he say?
General, you wouldn't think they would.
Mr. Dershowitz gave a very lovely bar mitzvah speech. Now let's.
Bro. Bro, you have to be. I don't ever remember him saying this. He's basically calling him a child. He's basically calling him a child. Which is funny because that is an ad hominem attack, but it's pretty fucking funny. It's pretty fucking funny.
Let's see what the Human Rights Watch wrote. Quote, among the civilian deaths were those of Kamu Zigir. Listen carefully.
The way he speaks to him is very infantilizing. It's very like patronizing. He's always like, listen carefully. Like, you know, these are things you need to understand and listen to. You know?
7-year-old
Hey, Carpe.
wheelchair-bound men.
Everybody go follow Carpe Pex.
And run over by a tank on a major road outside the camp on April 10, even though he had a white flag attached to his wheelchair.
Yeah, many such cases.
Pretty deliberate to me,
If
Mr.
it's
Hirsch.
true,
If it's
and
true,
the Israeli
the whole
authorities
world
have
is
done-
lying. Only Joan Peters tells the truth.
Has not written about this issue. This issue is one where, of course, not only the Israeli military, but the United States has investigated Janine.
Oh, that's
the United
funny
Nations
as
has
fuck.
investigated Janine. Some of the
Did
same
they make
people-
up that example?
Some of the
Let's
same
get
sources.
this clear.
Some of the same
Did Human
sources
Rights Watch
that
make up
you're
that
citing
example?
First said there
Did
were
Human Rights Watch
5,000
make up that
people
example?
killed. No, that was an
Did
example.
Human Rights you said
they were given it to
please,
them
Mr.
by a
Dershowitz,
source,
this is
and
disgraceful.
it was disputed.
You're shaming your institution.
No, I disagree with that, Katrina. I think this is a battle of facts. Like, I mean, I think that Dershowitz is definitely battling for his ego, but Finkelstein is definitely like arguing facts, and he's doing it. He's doing it on behalf of Palestinians. You know, he is doing it for that reason.
Let me make it very clear. I
You
don't
said-
speak on
you
behalf
said
of Harvard.
not
I speak on
a
behalf
single-
not a single one.
Like, I know he's bad on lots of other stuff, but I don't think it's fair to like detract on the fact that he is genuinely doing this from a place of like empathy for the Palestinians. He always has done, you know.
Did Human Rights Watch make that up?
No, but
did Human Rights Watch make it up?
Human Rights Watch
Did
attributes
it make it up?
Let me,
No.
can
Did
I
they make
finish
up
my-
that
can I
example?
finish my point?
All right, on
Yeah,
that
he
note,
is a
I'm gonna
monster.
wrap it up.
Dershowitz is a monster,
Is
for real.
Human Rights quotes people who...
Did you, Professor
who make
Dershowitz,
it
let
up,
me
of
ask this
course,
question.
yes.
Did you investigate the Human Rights Watch
Of
report?
course I did, and I read it.
And you found that to be
I found
incredible.
that to be incorrect. Not only that, the United States government has found that to be incorrect.
On that note, we have to wrap up the show. I want to thank you both for being with us. Alan Dershowitz,
It's young gaming, yeah.
Israel, Norman Finkelstein, the Holocaust Industry.
So there you go, chat.
Our website, www.democracynow.com.
There you go. If you want to watch that video for yourself, if you came in at the end or whatever, there's the video. That's not the official YouTube channel of Democracy Now! Or Finkelstein or Dershowitz or whatever. But yeah, you could go ahead and check that out. Nice little historical debate going on there. Very interesting. So what we're going to do next is we're just going to real quick check out some of the stuff that South Africa has basically like accused Israel of doing in its case for an accusation of genocide against the state of Israel. So you can access all this stuff. This isn't like privy to any like secret streamer stuff or whatever. You can access this stuff if you just go on the internet, you Google International Court of Justice. Here's the actual press release. Proceedings instituted by South Africa against Israel, 29th December 2023. Request for the indication of provisional measures. Public hearings to be held on Thursday 11th and Friday 12th of January. That's this week, chat. So I am planning to attempt to stream this stuff since it will be in my time zone. So yeah, stop by. So 10 a.m. till 12 noon. 10 a.m. till 12 noon. 10 a.m. till 12 noon is the oral argument from South Africa on Thursday, and 10 a.m. till 12 noon is the oral argument from Israel on Friday. So there you go. So those are the timings. Now I've gone specifically to this bit of South Africa's submission, right? Which they have a lot of lawyers from all over the world helping them with and working with and all this kind of stuff. So this is a section that, and I've found this in the text. Expressions of genocidal intent against Palestinian people by Israeli state officials and others. So this is something that like all the social media accounts, Instagram, PayPal. What the fuck am I talking about? TikTok. Why did I say PayPal? I'm thinking about my money. You should be giving me money, by the way, chat, for the work I'm doing. Anyway, the various different social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, everywhere, people are talking about this, particularly in that there are 9 pages of expressions of genocidal intent against Palestinian peoples by Israeli state officials and others. And so here they are. Prime Minister of Israel on 7th of October 2023, in a televised address by the government press office, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to operate forcefully everywhere. On the 13th of October, he confirmed that we are striking our enemies with unprecedented might. On 15th of October, when Israeli airstrikes had already killed over 2,000 Palestinians, including 724 children, the Prime Minister stated that Israeli soldiers understand the scope of the mission and stand ready to defeat the bloodthirsty monsters who have risen against Israel to destroy us. On 16th of October, in a formal address to the Israeli Knesset, he described this situation as a struggle between the children of right and the children of light and the children of darkness, between humanity and the law of the jungle. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Johnny, so everyone can take a look at this. In a letter to Israeli soldiers and officers, also published on the platform X, formerly Twitter, the letter asserted that this is the war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. We will not let up on our mission until light overcomes the darkness. The good will defeat the extreme evil that threatens us and the entire world. Israeli Prime Minister also returned to the theme in his Christmas message, stating, "We're facing monsters who murdered children in front of their parents. This is a battle not only of Israel against these barbarians, it's a battle of civilization against barbarism." On 28th of October 2023, as Israeli forces prepare their land invasion of Gaza, the Prime Minister involved the biblical story of the total destruction of Amalek by the Israelites, saying, "You must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember." The Prime Minister referred again to Amalek in the letter sent on the 3rd of November 2023 to Israeli soldiers and officers. The relevant biblical passage reads as follows: "Now go attack Amalek and prescribe all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and asses." And then the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog, on the 12th of October, made clear that Israel was not distinguishing between militants and civilians in Gaza, stating that in a press conference to foreign media. Now, what's really funny is that, like, what they've done here. I say funny because if you didn't laugh, you'd cry, right? But what's actually happening here is that, they started with the most tame shit. Because we go on to then talk about what Yoav Gallant said and Isaac Herzog. And then later on in the document, they're talking about, all these other people who have less public eyes on them, saying things like, we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years and take down Gaza. They're going to talk about, like, the people who said we should nuke Gaza and stuff like that, right? Just going on to talk about that. So just absolutely incredible stuff. Anyway, Isaac Herzog, said in a press conference to foreign media, Malaysia Palestinians in Gaza, it's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians not aware and not involved. It's absolutely not true. We'll fight until we break their backbone. And then later on, he said, we will uproot evil so there will be no good for the entire region and the world. The Israeli president is one of many Israelis to have handwritten messages on bombs to be dropped on Gaza. Yoav Gallant said to the Israeli army, in an Israeli army update, advised Israel was imposing a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and acting accordingly. He's then also said the troops on the Gaza border, he's released all the restraints. Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything. If it doesn't take one day, it'll take a week. It will take weeks or even months. We will reach all places. He further announced Israel was moving to a full-scale response and removed every restriction, right? National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir clarified the government's position in a televised address, saying, "To be clear, when we say that Hamas should be destroyed, it also means those who celebrate, those who support, and those who hand out candy, they're all terrorists, and they should all be destroyed," referring to everyone in Gaza. And in the West Bank, some people in the West Bank as well. Tweeting on the 13th of October 2023, Israel Katz said, "All civilian population in Gaza is ordered to leave immediately. We will win. They will not receive a drop of water or a single battery until they leave the world." Until they leave the world. On the 12th of October, he tweeted, "Humanitarian aid to Gaza. No electrical switch will be turned on. No water hydrant will be opened, and no fuel truck will enter the Israeli abductees until the Israeli abductees are returned home. Humanitarianism for humanitarianism." Yeah. Israeli Minister of Finance Bezalel Smotrich stated in a meeting of the Israeli cabinet that we need to deal a blow that hasn't been seen in 50 years to take down Gaza. Israeli Minister of Heritage on the 1st of November 2023, Amichai, I don't know how to pronounce this, Amichai Eliyahu, posted on Facebook, "The north of the Gaza Strip more beautiful than ever. Everything is blown up and flattened. Simply a pleasure for the eyes." Talking about how good it looked after they'd flattened it. We must talk about the day after. In my mind, we will hand over lots to all those who fought for Gaza over the years and to those evicted from Gush Katif, a former Israeli settlement. He later argued against humanitarian aid. We wouldn't hand the Nazis humanitarian aid, and there is no such thing as uninvolved civilians in Gaza. He also posited a nuclear attack on the Gaza Strip, which is the thing that he said in, I think he said it in, while he was like in the Knesset. Israeli Minister of Agriculture on 11th of November, Avi Dichter, in a television interview, recalled the Nakba of 1948, in which over 80% of the Palestinian population of the newer Israeli state was forced out or fled from their home, stating, "We are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba." Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, Nissim Vachuri, tweeted, Now we all have one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth. Those who are unable will be replaced." Similar statements have been made by Israeli army officials, advisors, and spokespersons, and others engaging with Israeli troops being deployed in Gaza. Israeli army coordinator of government activities in the territories, Kogat, on 9th of October 2023, in a video statement addressed to Hamas and Gaza residents, published by Kogat's official channel, Major General Ghassan Alian warned, Hamas became ISIS, and the citizens of Gaza are celebrating instead of being horrified. Human animals are dealt with accordingly. Israel has imposed a total blockade on Gaza. No electricity, no water, just damage. You wanted hell, you will get hell. Israeli Army Reservist Major General, former head of the Israeli National Security Council and advisor to Defense Minister, Giora Eliand, describing the Israeli order to cut off water and electricity to Gaza, wrote in an online journal, "This is what Israel has begun to do. We cut the supply of energy, water, and diesel to the Strip, but it's not enough. In order to make the siege effective, we have to prevent others from giving assistance to Gaza. The people should be told that they have two choices, to stay and starve or to leave. If Egypt and other countries prefer that these people will perish in Gaza, this is their choice." On the same day, he asserted in a national newspaper that when you are at war with another country, you don't feed them, you don't provide them electricity or gas or water or anything else. A country can be attacked in a much broader way to bring the country to the brink of dysfunction. This is the necessary outcome of events. Of course, Gaza is not another country. Gaza is an occupied territory that Israel is occupying. He has repeatedly asserted the benefits for Israel of the creation of humanitarian crisis in Gaza, stating that Israel has no interest in the Gaza Strip being rehabilitated, and that this is an important point that needs to be made clear to the Americans, and that if we ever want to see the hostages alive, the only way is to create a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza. He's indicated that water should be targeted, noting that water in Gaza comes from wells with salt water, unfit for consumption. They have water treatment plants. Israel should hit those plants. When the entire world says we have gone insane and this is a humanitarian disaster, we will say it's not an end, it's a means. It's completely fucking fucked. He also reiterated in a Times radio interview that the army should create such a huge pressure on Gaza that Gaza will become an area where people cannot live. People cannot live until Hamas is destroyed, which means that Israel not only stops to supply energy, diesel, water, food, as we did in the last 20 years, but we should prevent any possible assistance by others and to create in Gaza such a terrible, unbearable situation that can last weeks and months. I'm actually like learning stuff. I've been following this super close recently. Over the last 3 months it's been happening, and even I haven't heard this stuff. It's just completely ridiculous. It's so inhumane. It's so fascist. Gura Eland has repeatedly been given a media platform to call for Gaza to be made uninhabitable, declaring the state of Israel has no choice but to make Gaza a place that is temporarily or permanently impossible to live in. In an interview on the 6th of November 2023, he suggested that if there is an intention for military action at Al-Shifa Hospital, which I think is inescapable, I hope the head of the CIA got an explanation of why this is necessary and why the US must ultimately back even an operation like this, even if there are thousands of bodies of civilians in the streets afterwards. That's just completely fucked. Further, he proposed that Israel needs to create a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, compelling tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands to seek refuge in Egypt or the Gulf. Gaza will become a place where no human being can exist, echoing the words of President Herzog. He's repeatedly underscored there should be no distinction between Hamas combatants and Palestinian civilians, saying, who are the poor women of Gaza? They are all the mothers, sisters, or wives of Hamas murderers. On one hand, they're part of the infrastructure that supports the organization, and on the other hand, if they experience a humanitarian disaster, then it can be assumed that some of the Hamas fighters and the more junior commanders will begin to understand that their war is futile. The international community warns us of a humanitarian disaster in Gaza and of severe epidemics. We must not shy away from this, as difficult as that may be. After all, severe epidemics in the south of the Gaza Strip will bring victory closer. It is precisely its civil collapse that will bring the end of the war closer. When senior Israeli figures say in the media it's either us or them, we should clarify the question of who is them. They are not only Hamas fighters with weapons, but also all the civilian officials, including hospital administrators and school administrators, and the entire Gaza population who enthusiastically supported Hamas and cheered on its atrocities on October 7th. It's monstrous. This is monstrous. This is Nazi shit. Israeli army reservist motivational speech on... this guy! This fucking guy. Ezra Yachin, veteran of the Deir Yassin massacre during the 1948 Nakba, reportedly called up for reserve to boost morale among Israeli troops. He said, be triumphant and finish them off and don't leave anyone behind. Erase the memory of them. Erase them, their families, mothers, children. These animals can no longer live. Every Jew with a weapon should go out and kill them. If you have an Arab neighbor, don't wait. Go to his home and shoot him. We want to invade, not like before. We want to enter and destroy what's in front of us and destroy houses and destroy the one after it. With all of our forces, complete destruction. Enter and destroy. As you can see, we will witness things we've never dreamed of. Let them drop bombs on and erase them. Yeah, this guy's just a vile monster. You know, he was there in the original Nakba in 1948, driving people out of their homes, like, doing who knows what to Palestinians, because unfortunately a lot of it wasn't recorded. But what was recorded was monstrous. You know, all the things that they accused Palestinians of, they did to Palestinians back then. Head of the Israeli Army's Air Operations Group on the 28th of October 2023, Lieutenant Colonel Gilad Kinan described the Air Force as working together with all the bodies in the IDF when the goal is clear to destroy everything that has been touched by the hand of Hamas. Commander in 2,908th Battalion of the Israeli Army, in a video posted online on 21st December 2023, Yair Ben David said that the Israeli Army had entered Beit Hanun and did there as Shimon and Levi did in Nablus, and that the entire Gaza should resemble Beit Hanun, referring to the city in northern Gaza, which has been entirely devastated by the Israeli army. The biblical passage in issue reads, on the third day, when they were in pain, Simeon and Levi, two of Jacob's sons, brothers of Dinah, took each his sword and came upon the city unmolested and slew all the males. Yay, and the lesser-known victim diaries from the camps that survived as well. They just wrote everything they saw. Yeah. Sorry, you said yay. I thought you were going to be doing yay, like speaking in Old English. Sorry, that's my bad. Yeah, the lesser-known victim diaries from the camps that survived. Yeah. The above statements by Israeli decision-makers and military officials indicate in and of themselves a clear intent to destroy Palestinians in Gaza as a group, and as such, they also constitute clear, direct, and public incitement to genocide, which has gone unchecked and unpunished. The clear inference from the acts of the Israeli army on the ground, including from the vast number of civilians killed and injured, and the scale of displacement, destruction, and devastation wrought in Gaza, is that those genocidal statements and directives are being implemented against the Palestinian people. That is also the clear and necessary inference to be drawn from the emerging evidence from the Israeli army soldiers serving in Gaza, including those stationed on the ground. Israeli army colonel, deputy head of Kogat, speaking in a video filmed in Beit Lahia, one of the areas of Gaza which appears to have suffered particularly severe levels of destruction, and broadcast on Israeli television on the 4th of November 2023, Colonel Yogev Bar Shasset stated, "Whoever returns here, if they return hereafter, will find scorched earth. No houses, no agriculture, no nothing. They have no future." Another army colonel recorded in the same video, Colonel Erez Eshel, Reserve, also commented that vengeance is a great value. There is vengeance over what they did to us. This place will be a fallow land. They will not be able to live here. Israeli army soldiers. Israeli soldiers in uniform have been filmed on the 5th of December 2023 dancing, chanting and singing "May their village burn, may Gaza be erased," and 2 days later on a separate occasion inside Gaza on the 7th of December 2023 dancing, singing and chanting "We know our motto, there are no uninvolved civilians," to wipe off the seed of Amalek. Just fucking disgusting. Notably, the second video of soldiers chanting "There are no uninvolved citizens" in Gaza and that they will wipe off the seed of Amalek was filmed on 7th of December 2023. By that date, 17,000 Palestinians in Gaza had been killed, an estimated 70% of whom were women and children. 7th to the 8th of December 2023 was particularly devastating for Palestinians, with 350 people killed in the space of 24 hours, approximately one Palestinian in Gaza killed every 4 minutes. This genocidal rhetoric of government and military officials is also widespread and commonplace amongst non-cabinet members of the Israeli Knesset, MKs, who have repeatedly called for Gaza to be wiped out, flattened, erased, and crushed on all of its inhabitants. Parliamentarians have publicly deplored anyone feeling sorry for the uninvolved Gazans, asserting repeatedly that there are no uninvolved and that there are no innocents in Gaza, and that the killers of the women and children should not be separated from the citizens of Gaza, that the children of Gaza have brought this upon themselves, and that there should be one sentence for everyone there, death. These are all quotes. Parliamentarians have stated, "We must not forget that even the innocent citizens, the cruel and monstrous people from Gaza, took an active part. There is no place for any humanitarian gesture. The memory of Amalek must be protested, and that without hunger and thirst amongst the Gazan population, we will not be able to recruit collaborators." Parliamentarians have also called for mercilessly bombing from the air and calling for the use of nuclear doomsday weapons and a Nakba that will overshadow the Nakba of 48. So there you go. Those are all statements from Israeli officials, military and government officials, and soldiers on the ground with clear intent to do genocide. That's it. Amalek is like a biblical thing. So that's that. Basically, that's what we're looking at this week. What South Africa's being bringing to the International Court of Justice. Feel sick just hearing it all. Yeah. I'm gonna make a prediction. Because of the absolutely fucking insane way that Israel likes to act in international hearings and things of that nature. I'm absolutely convinced that they're going to wear the Holocaust stars. I'm absolutely convinced that they're going to do that. They're going to wear the, I don't know if you've seen it. If you've not seen it, I'll bring it up on the screen for you just now. Israel officials wear Holocaust Stars of David. So they actually wore them with the insignia. Let me just bring up this image. So they actually they wore these in the UN. And if you zoom in there, it actually says "never again." Implying that there is some kind of genocide happening against Israeli Jewish people, or in fact, more broadly speaking, Jewish people all over the world. Which is, by all accounts, not happening. I don't think there's any serious leftist out here saying that there is no... Thank you for the follow. I don't think there's any serious leftist out here saying that there is no anti-Semitism happening in the diaspora. But I do know for a fact that there is no genocide happening. It's not happening. And so, they're doing this whole thing while they're genociding Gazans. So there you go. Yeah, Hamas is coming across the Mexico border. Yeah, they really do think that, don't they? So, that's that. So I genuinely think that they're going to wear those stars. I genuinely think they're going to go to the International Court of Justice at The Hague and say that that's what's going on. Now, chat, at this point in the film, it feels like a film because it's been going on for that long. I do want to remind you that this is my main form of income. So please consider subbing off Twitch. Please consider donating. Twitch definitely does not like people talking about Palestine. It doesn't like people talking about like the actual facts, the ins and outs. So please consider not giving them any money by subscribing on Twitch. Please consider subbing off Twitch, donating directly to your boy Donkus Muel's PayPal. The link is there in the chat. Means that I can pay my bills, means that I can pay my rent, means that I can literally like afford to eat, exactly as Raven Payne says, means that I can pay bills, eat food, etc. So please consider doing that. We're at £41 at the start of January, which is very good, but I would like to see that number going up as we move in. If we hit the halfway point, we will be unlocking movie night for January. I will be organising movie night from the last 2 months that we unlocked. So we're going to be watching, this weekend, we're going to be watching Hiroku the Goblin and Porco Rosso. Double feature, because we unlocked that in November. And then, the week after that, we're going to be watching, which I think is the 20th. It might be the 20th of January. I'm not entirely sure. Holy shit. January's moving way too fast. Don't like this. We're just 1 week into 2024 at the moment. I don't like thinking about the future of January. But anyway, that's what's going on. 20th of January, we're going to be watching some Christmas films because it's a belated Christmas movie night special because we unlocked it in December. So that's that. But we could have another movie night this month. We could have 3 movie nights this month. That's a movie night every week, a double feature every week if we hit £250 before the middle of the month. So by the end of this week, pretty much Monday next week, if we can hit £250, that's another double feature movie night. If you're not already in the Discord, please consider joining because it means that you can enjoy the movie nights with us. So there you go. Anyway. I was going to be watching the new Thought Slime video on stream today, but we've actually done like 4 hours of content pretty much. So that's basically me for the stream. I'm basically done. Yeah, and I gotta go to bed early anyway because I need a big sleep. I've been working out recently. I gotta look after myself. But I am going to be uploading some stuff to the VOD channel tonight. I'm going to be uploading the Christmas Bingus. And I want you to please go ahead and go and follow all the different socials that I got. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I got a YouTube channel. I got a new YouTube video out. If any of the Rob Rousseau peeps haven't watched it already, it's right here. I'll show it you there. Look, it's called Awful Landlord Influencers. And I know you're probably going to be like, you know, a little bit feeling bad because I'm wearing a Christmas hat. It's my Christmas special. I did bring it out a little bit late. So there you go. But you can just ignore that and you can watch the very good content that's in the video, which is about that one landlord influencer guy that chainsawed a door open. I'm sure you all saw that in the run up to Christmas. He's very cool, isn't he? Well, you can find out just exactly how cool he is by going to my video and watching it, and I find out a bunch of stuff about him, which is definitely also just as cool. I'm using the word cool in a sarcastic way here, as the chainsawing the door thing. So you could go find out some other cool things that he's done, involving going to Africa and saying that he's done things there, and the reality being that he hasn't actually done any of them. So anyway, there you go. Go check that out. That'll really help me out. Give me a like, a comment, a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And also check out the VOD channel as well. I'm on there. I am not on Mastodon. I've got no plans to be on Mastodon, so I do apologize for that. If anyone wants a Blue Sky code, hit me up in the Discord because I got fucking loads. I'm pretty sure that everybody on Blue Sky's got loads of codes as well. You know, it's one of those. Jaeger Bomber in the chat. I do want to just say what Jaeger Bomber in the chat said, because I think it's pretty pertinent. Jaeger Bomber said, I think even if you thought what Hamas did was genocidal behavior, it lasted a single day and it's very much stopped. Is there a reason the UN won't send in peacekeepers to restore order? Yeah, I mean, the thing is that like the UN is constantly vetoed by the United States. It's actually controlled by the United States. It's a fucking joke of an organization, essentially. So yeah, I'm sorry to break that to you. But listen, I can't stick around, folks. However much I'd love to like stick around and do stuff, I am going to be sending you all over to another streamer. So let's take a look and see who's live. Please join me for the raid. Got raid commands here. If you got a sub, there's the raid command for subs. If you don't got a sub, there's the raid command for people who don't got a sub. Just copy and paste that. Come along with me as we go and raid. Who we got? Let's go and show some love to... Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I've not done this in so long. I'm literally like, who can I raid? Who can I raid? Who can I raid? You know what? We've done a lot of Doom. We've done a lot of Doom over here, so we're not gonna raid someone who's doing politics. We're gonna raid someone doing some games. So we're gonna go ahead and raid Strong Bad E-Girl. She's really, really cool. She's playing a game called The Coffin of Andy and someone? What is it? The Coffin of Andy and Laylee? I've never, ever, ever heard of this game before, but I'm sure it's very cool and interesting if Strong Bad E-Girl is playing it, because she's really fucking cool. So there you fucking go. Chat, join me for the raid. I will be back tomorrow, same Muel time, same Muel place. We're going to be taking a look at the Thought Slime video tomorrow, so please join us for that. I'm going to also be checking out a bunch of news as well, as I always do, and hopefully we'll have some more other stuff to talk about as well that isn't so depressing. But of course, don't forget, the stream on Thursday is basically going to be covering the South African International Court of, International Court of Justice statements. So be there or be square. But thank you so much, everybody who's donated today. Thank you so much, everybody who's raided. Thank you, Rob, for the big raid. Thank you, everyone, for all the follows. Don't forget to follow if you haven't already. Otherwise, you just will completely forget about me, and I understand that. I've got ADHD as well. It's one of those things. But yeah, do that. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the lurks. Thanks for the chats. Yeah, thank you for everything. I'll see you all tomorrow. Mwah. Stay excellent to each other. Peace, 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 peace.